Hello, guys. Welcome to our session again. Let me open the camera. Hello, guys. Welcome to our session again. Thank you so much for joining, every one of you. I first of all want to welcome Reem ma'am. Hello, Reem ma'am.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, Reem ma'am. Thank you for joining.
Always welcome.
Yeah. सो अभी हम स्टार्ट करते हैं 2:10 पे। आई विल सी दैट पीपल अभी काफ़ी ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं। तो पार्टिसिपेंट्स लेट्स जस्ट वेट फॉर सम मोर टाइम एंड देन वी कैन जॉइन अगेन। मतलब बाकी लोग जॉइन जॉइन करना चाहे तो। एंड टुडे इज गोइंग टू बी द सेकेंड लास्ट लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग ऑफ माइन। सो आई विल बी मेकिंग श्योर टू गिव यू ऑल योर आंसर्स। ठीक है। आपकी जो भी क्वेरीज होंगी वो मैं अच्छे से आपको कन्वे कर दूंगी। एंड आज हम थोड़ा डिटेलिंग में जाएंगे क्योंकि जाने से पहले मैं आपको थोड़ा बता के जाऊँ हाउ यू कैन स्टे लाइक एक्टिव कांस्टेंट और जितनी भी चीज़ें हैं, ताकि आप जाने के मतलब बाद में आपको ये सारे टिप्स याद रहे। अगर आपको लॉस होता है तो कैसे रिकवर करना है, बाकी चीज़ों में भी आपका जो पर्सपेक्टिव है वो अच्छा रहे। ठीक है। सो लेट मी हैव अ लुक ऑन द कमेंट सेक्शन फर्स्ट एंड देन स्टार्ट करते हैं हम। 2 मिनट बस। Okay, we have 133, 134 participants. Hello everyone, welcome all of you. Hi, I want to know about the trade. Yes, trade के बारे में I will tell. And thank you DS Happiness sir. You have deposited $3 guys. एंड एक और चीज़ मैं आपको बता देना चाहती हूँ कि आज हमारे पास डिपॉजिट बैनर की ऑप्शन नहीं अवेलेबल है। तो जिनको भी डिपॉजिट करना है, अकाउंट ओपन करना है, प्लीज़ क्लिक ऑन द ये जो डिपॉजिट बैनर है ना उस पर लिखा हुआ, उस पर क्लिक करके डिपॉजिट करें। या जो डॉलर का साइन है ग्रीन कलर का उस पर क्लिक करके डिपॉजिट करें। ठीक है। ओके। तो प्लीज़ गाइज लेट्स प्लीज़ यू कैन जॉइन। 2:10 पे स्टार्ट करते हैं। मैं आपको तब तक न्यूज़ शेयर करती हूँ, प्लीज़ न्यूज़ देखें। ठीक है। तो गाइज प्लीज़ न्यूज़ देख लीजिए क्योंकि हम न्यूज़ के बारे में भी डिस्कस करेंगे जाने से पहले। कॉइन डेस्क हेडलाइंस। ठीक है, यहाँ पे जाना है आपको। क्रिप्टो पे जाना है। ठीक है। क्या यहाँ से अभी हम पढ़ते हैं। ठीक है। बिटकॉइन की वैसे न्यूज़ मैंने आज भी पढ़ी है, आपको बताऊंगी। ओके। वेट फॉर सम मोर टाइम, फिर हम ज्वाइन करते हैं। गाइस मैं आपको थोड़ा ट्रेड के बारे में बता देना चाहती हूँ, ठीक है? फिर मैं आपकी क्वेश्चंस एंड क्वेरीज लूंगी बिकॉज मैं चाहती हूँ कि आप ये थोड़ा देखें। इसमें रोल प्ले भी है कि कैंडल स्टिक पैटर्न वगैरह के, तो एक बार हम ये देख लेते हैं, ठीक है? आई नो मैंने ये कराया था। कुछ इम्पोर्टेंट चीज है जो ये रह गया था, चार्ट पैटर्न्स, ये देख एक बार देख लेते हैं, ठीक है? ट्रेंड लाइंस, ड्राइंग एंड ट्रेडिंग ये भी करेंगे, बट एक बार ये देख लेते हैं, ये इम्पोर्टेंट है, सारे चार्ट पैटर्न्स।
Many people, when they think of technical analysis,
गिव मी 1 मिनट, शायद मैंने स्विच साउंड शेयर नहीं, या एक बार देख लीजिए फिर आपकी क्वेरीज लेती हूँ।
they're really thinking about like patterns, patterns on a chart. Maybe you're drawing trend lines or hand drawing patterns or recognizing patterns on a chart. Now, we don't hand draw them anymore. The trading platform will actually help you to draw lines electronically on the screen. They're very helpful that way. You can use different colors, all sorts of great stuff. But that's the idea, is like, oh, they're chart, and sometimes it's called charting, for that reason, because you're looking at these patterns, and there's nothing wrong with that. Chart pattern trading and trading off chart patterns has been very successful for a very long time, and can have some of the strongest indicators out there as far as making decisions around whether to buy or sell a security. So, and they also have really fun, cool names sometimes. Like, they got fun names like the dead cat bounce, right? Who wouldn't want to trade based on something that's called a dead cat bounce? Or maybe you wouldn't like to trade on that because you like cats. I don't know. I like cats. I used to have cats. So some people will trade only on chart patterns. They learn their favorite patterns, they really become specialists in those areas, and then they can visually recognize them fast. In fact, if you really are a visual learner or visually like to look at analysis and things like that, chart patterns might be really great for you. If not, they're another tool in your toolbox, of course, as far as different indicators and combination of indicators that you can put together. But they can really, for those who can, if you can see these patterns developing, that gives you an edge over maybe other traders who can't see them developing as quickly. And my goal here in this series of lessons to help you be able to see those patterns, easily, as far as seeing the patterns. And the idea is you're going to visually see these broad patterns, and they may look like objects, actually, and a lot of their names come from that. You'll see in the upcoming lessons. They might look like a triangle or a rectangle or other shapes, or things like a cup with a handle on it. And when these things form, that means something might be happening. And the idea is a pattern that's indicates something in the past and has been proven over time will do so again in the future. Now, nothing's perfect, of course, but that's the idea behind it, that similar situations will recreate these repeatable patterns, and we can trade off those. In fact, your fellow traders out there are seeing these patterns, some faster than others, but when they see these patterns, they're reacting in predictable manners. And for us, when we're trading and we have these indicators, whenever we can see, the larger group of traders out there in the world, behaving in predictable manners, that allows us to really be confident in our trading itself and in our actions and our strategies that we're putting together. And then these chart patterns, most will employ straight lines in many cases, or try to, or certainly when drawing a trend line. And some, of course, are much more dynamic in their shape. And pattern lines will follow typically either the highs or the lows, right? So you're seeing these patterns develop around the highs and lows. And pattern types are organized whether they forecast or predict or indicate a continuation or a reversal of the current price move. So the idea is you're seeing a trend, either upwards or downwards, and you want to look at that pattern that's developing and see, when you recognize that pattern and maybe invest or trade around that pattern, is it going to continue? Let's say it was an uptrend. Is it going to continue in that uptrend? And so we might, if we've already bought, we might want to keep holding that until it gets to a reversal point, or maybe we want to buy now and ride that uptrend. And some will indicate a reversal, which is the exact opposite. Maybe it's been, in this example, an uptrend, and now it's starting to run out of steam, and it's going to change and go either sideways or maybe start going down. And so maybe if we own the security, we want to sell more closer to the top. So continuation or reversal patterns are very important to recognize which is which, and we'll be going into that, of course, throughout the upcoming lessons. Now, it might take a little practice to start seeing the patterns, okay? It's okay, that's normal, because when you're dealing with real life, things don't match up perfectly. What I might demonstrate or you might see out there might look like a triangle, but when you go out in the real world, it might not be as perfect a triangle, for example, but you're still seeing that movement as far as how the prices are reacting, let's say inside the triangle, in the triangle section. So it's okay if they don't match up, in a perfect thing, and it's not a perfect world that we live in. The other thing that can frustrate a lot of people around with patterns too is that they take time to develop. It's not like something that, okay, all of a sudden you look at the next day's price bar and all of a sudden, boom, there it is. There's the development might be that next day's price bar is the one that now confirms your idea of what you want to do. It did something and now you're going to take action. But to get to that point, a pattern had to develop over a period of time. And the period, of course, can be, the period of time frame you choose, whether it's short time periods like minutes, hours, or days, or longer periods like weeks or months, even years. So that's the idea behind that the time frame can fit these patterns any way you want them, not any way you want them to, but any way you can use the pattern the same way no matter what your time frame is. But a lot of times you can see a pattern developing and you maybe get excited about it. Like, I can see it coming. I just need a little bit more and I can confirm it and I'll buy in and it'll be great. And then something changes. Something changes in the news. There's a big event that happens and your pattern never fully forms. And that can be a little frustrating too. However, when you get it right and a pattern fully develops, it can be a very, very powerful indicator tool that you can use. Very, very powerful. So it's something you do really want to become familiar with. Plus, chart patterns can help with your confirmations. They can help confirm other indicators you're using. You'll learn about in things like around, let's say, how to trade off moving averages, for example. And you can use it to help, your chart pattern can help confirm that maybe a trend exists or that what you're seeing with your moving average indicator or tool is being confirmed by another chart pattern or vice versa. Or you can use it to confirm around things like trading volume changes, right? So you see a pattern, you can confirm that chart pattern itself because the trading volume either goes up or maybe it starts going down. A lot of times when there's a higher volume, it'll typically indicate that the pattern is now reaching its completion phase and so is ready to be trade worthy, as they say. So there's an art and skill to that a little bit as far as doing chart patterns and all that. But I think for many people, that's one thing that they love about technical analysis is they love that kind of idea of looking at patterns and making decisions off of. So chart patterns are designed to tell you if either the trend will either continue, or what's called continuation pattern, or change or reverse, a reversal pattern. And in this section, we're going to talk about continuation patterns. So you're going to be seeing trends, you're going to see things continue along the trend. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind. We're going to be talking about continuation patterns in this area, and then later we'll be talking about reversal patterns. But reading right from here, you can kind of see that one of the key kind of parts of this is there needs to be a trend, right, for either one. If there's no trend, you really have no continuation or reversal pattern. That's been fully formed. You might see a pattern in development, and you might be a trend be in development too, and you'll see that as we go through the lessons. But one of the key things is part of this whole trend is your friend, and the trend is going to help you as an indication and a predictor, and the patterns do that too. But they need that trend to be there as well. So that's where with chart patterns, sometimes they take a little patience around that because you're waiting for these things to develop. So in an established trend, what happens is let's say it's an uptrend. There's a trend that's being established. Prices are headed in a certain direction. That's what we made trend. Prices are either going up or down, and what can happen is there's a pause. There might be the strong trend either way, either up or down, and then there's a pause, a little slowing down of buying and selling. The trend is starting to lose its steam, so to speak. It's not as being firmly bought up or firmly sold off, so to speak. So it's starting to lose its steam. And when you see a continuation pattern, that is indicating that the trend will accelerate again after the pause. So let's use that example of an uptrend. Let's say you've got an uptrend going up. there's a pause, so prices kind of stabilize or go sideways, maybe down a little bit, and then with a continuation pattern, they would keep going up is the idea of a continuation and feel good. And when you are, let's say, investing off a trend, and you see a pattern that's there, you can feel good that you've identified the trend correctly because it's a continuation trend is the idea. So you can feel good about that, okay, I have a really good handle on this particular security, how it is trading at this moment in time because I see the trend, but I also see the continuation pattern kind of reinforcing that. And we can make trading decisions around that as well. So when you're thinking about trading and you're trading continuation patterns, if it's an uptrend, prices are rising, you don't want to sell. You want to ride that price up further. Hopefully you bought in at some point lower. The prices have gone up, so you've made profit as the prices have gone up. And you're seeing this pattern. You maybe see a pause, but you see a continuation pattern. And so the idea is that it's going to keep going up and you'll get even more profits off of that initial trade. In fact, what you could do in some cases is you see that you could add even more to that trade, keep investing a little bit more in that security. Not only do you have your original investment, but maybe now you see this chart pattern and a continuation pattern is formed. You can even add a little bit more or add more, and now you've got even more money that's as you adjusted your position to kind of ride upward in an upward trend. Now if you're, let's say, looking to buy as opposed to short selling or other types of strategies out there, but let's say if you were buying securities and you see a downtrend, well, you can see that established downtrend, and you need to continue to wait that out and wait out that downtrend before buying in, right? So it's a good way to judge to see, oh, is it going to reverse? Is that downtrend going to maybe go start into an uptrend now? But with a continuation pattern, it would be like, no, I see a continuation pattern in a downtrend. That means it's going to keep going down further, which might mean we might have a great opportunity coming up in the near future once that continuation pattern basically runs its course. So that's the general idea behind continuation patterns. Let's now look at some specific examples of the actual patterns that you can see and how to. In terms of chart patterns, one of the more common ones you'll see out there are triangles. And really what's happening with there is there's a converging of a support and resistance levels. So think of, again, I think of support levels as prices don't go below a support level. They're bouncing off the bottom. There's a level where they're not breaking through or going lower. And a resistance level would be at the high part of prices, where prices maybe are marching up to a resistance point, but they don't break through that resistance. They kind of turn around and start coming back down. And they're trading between these support and resistance level. But with a triangle, these things are starting to come closer together. They're converging is what's happening. And they could be either in a rising or declining prices. The trend could be either going upward or downward. And so what's happening is the trading price range is starting to converge or narrow. Maybe it started out here and then it started to get narrower here, and it actually forms the shape of a triangle, as you'll see in the upcoming lessons here. And then what happens is breakout, when it breaks through one of those lines, either a support level or a resistance level, when it actually breaks through those and then starts going further in either direction, whichever way it's going to go, it usually will break in the direction of the original trend with a triangle. That's very important. It'll break in the original direction of a trend with a triangle. So if the original direction, let's say upwards, and the triangle forms and starts to converge, then if it's an upward trend, it'll break through that resistance level at the top and then break through to higher prices, because an uptrend is higher prices. So if we bought here and we're starting to see a nice uptrend and a triangle forms, that's a nice pattern to kind of stick in there and let it break through that resistance level, and we'll be seeing that. So, because think about, again, as chart patterns go with triangles, they are continuation patterns, and that's why you'll follow whatever the way that original trend is, either upwards or downwards, because it is a continuation pattern as opposed to a reversal pattern, which would go the opposite way. But these are continuation patterns, as you'll see in here. Look at, let's say, not at the very beginning, but kind of start at the middle. Do you kind of see, if you look at the highs and the lows, if you were to draw lines connecting those high highs and those low lows, does it look like it's headed in a certain direction? Does it look like a triangle is forming? And it's not like, I believe the word is isosceles triangle, all the sides are equal. It'd be more of, I believe, equilateral triangle. Boy, it's been a long time since I talked about that. But the idea is that a triangle is forming here. And do you see it? Well, let's put in those resistance and support lines here. And now hopefully you can see, the triangle as it's forming here. And you can see that higher highs were not made, but the uptrend's going to continue on this. So, and the prices don't reflect new lows either. They're trading within that resistance and support line, those lines up there. And you can see how they're converging together. They're getting closer together. So if we start at the far left of the triangle where that dotted line is, and then you can see how the prices went up to that resistance line, but didn't keep going. The uptrend didn't keep going. It turned around and went back downwards. So now it's going downwards, and then it hit that support line, but it didn't break through there either. It then turned around and went back up. And there's always ups and downs as you go throughout, but it then marched back up to that resistance line, and so on with multiple touches. And you can see how the trading range narrows. So that is what's called an ascending triangle. Ascending because it's an upward trend, and the triangles, the bottom line, that support line, is going sloping upwards, where the resistance line is more horizontal there. So that's an ascending triangle, which is a continuation idea. And so when you buy on this, so you're buying when it's getting to that low, it's getting close to that support line, right? So you want to let the trend develop. You want to let the triangle develop. That's the key thing with patterns. You don't want to say, oh, I first saw it, hit that first touch of that line, I'm buying then. We don't know yet whether that's going to kind of reverse around. So typically you want to buy in like the second or third touch of a support line. And the more touches a support line has, the more approaches or close or near touches it has, the stronger the indicator is that that trend is holding, that those price levels are holding and then becoming more predictable. In this case, you can see where we started to the far left, kind of where the dots are, and we got 1, 2, and we look at the third one where it's approached, and once it makes that turn away from that at the third one, that's when we buy in, right? So that's a very strong confirmation. You can also use a second indicator to further confirm, with volume or a moving average or some other type of indicator to help you confirm as well. You don't have to trade just off the triangle. You could buy on that second touch, by the way, and that's perfectly fine. The third touch just gives you a little bit more confirmation. The more touches, the more confirmation. And the idea is we bought there on that third touch. It went up a little bit, actually then came back down and then touched again for a fourth time, then went back up again. But you can see with that support line there, we've established the support line. The third touch helps support that support line, and then it actually reinforced with the fourth touch there, and then the prices went up, and you can see our profit between where we bought. And then if we wanted to sell at the top of that resistance line, we could, or if we wanted for it to turn back around again, we could hope for another touch of that support line. But if you see in this ascending triangle, you see how everything's getting narrower, the price range. So now it's getting a little bit more closer as far as will it turn around, or will it resist, or will it break through that resistance line, or if it goes back, will it break through that support line, because the triangle is converging, it's getting narrower. That's the whole idea of the pattern. And because it's a continuation pattern, we have a better chance of the breakout, of course, happening. And the whole idea is it's going to break out on the top end, because this is an ascending triangle. Prices before were rising, and then they got into this triangle pattern where they went up, they went down, they went up, they went down, and then started to converge. And as they got tight and converged, then somebody had to win, the bulls or the bears, somebody had to win. And it had to break a resistance line or support line one time. And since triangles are considered continuation patterns, your breakout is going to be in the direction of whichever way the trend was, and the previous trend was an uptrend in this example, or an ascending triangle. It is always a breakout to the higher end, because you can see the support line has an upward slope to it. So that's where your breakout is. Now in a descending triangle, it's the same concept, just the other direction. You see how our support line now is horizontal, and our resistance line has a slope, and it has a downward slope, and a downward trend leading into it. Again, it's a continuation trend. So the lower lows are not made, but the downtrend will continue as it trades within that and it converges in there. But the prices are not making new highs either. The prices are starting to narrow and get closer down. So really, to tell whether it's an ascending or descending triangle, you'll look at which line is horizontal, basically straight across, and which one has a slope. Ascending, going higher, would have a resistance support line, that's uptrending, and a descending triangle would have a resistance line that's downtrending or downwards sloping. So if you own, let's say, if you own something, you might not buy or sell your holdings, depending where you're at within the triangle. If, let's say, I had bought earlier and it was downtrending, but I had bought earlier, and I have it where it starts coming back up within that triangle, I might try to sell near the resistance line, really to just get out is the idea. Because again, a trend is going to start, it's going to keep getting lower. Each time it goes bounces between that resistance and support line, the prices are going to keep getting lower until eventually they break through. And they break through, and they're going to break through in the direction of the trend. Though anything that happens, some kind of unusual event, things could happen. Something that that would be that would break the pattern that way. But if following the normal pattern, it's going to break out to the downside because that's where the original trend was. And you can even see within the triangle how it's converging towards the downside. Prices get lower and the range gets more narrow as we go down, so it'll break out to the downside. So when you see a triangle forming, the first thing to identify is it an ascending triangle or is it a descending triangle? And then you can base your trades, you can watch that, let it form, and you can base your trades around it. Again, with either triangle type, you want to at least touch or get near that line that's approaching at least 2 times to help confirm that this is a real pattern that's in formation, that's in development. A 3rd touch is even better, and the more touches you have, in general, the more formed the pattern is, though you might be missing out a little bit if you wait too long. So usually like a 2nd, and certainly a 3rd touch is a good recommended best practice when you're trading within many of these chart patterns, or almost all these chart patterns, but certainly with another continuation pattern that's going to follow the trend either upward or downward are what are called flags, right? And it's a continuation pattern, but it has a dramatic but brief reversal, and it's a real dramatic reversal. So if your prices are, let's say, downtrending and they're going down, on a flag it's going to reverse and the prices are going to go dramatically up for a little bit, and then they're going to come back down and follow that reversal, as we'll see in the example coming up. And the whole idea, like a lot of chart patterns, they look like something, and that's how they get their name. So it looks like a flag, or like a pennant on a flagpole, right? And it's similar to a triangle as far as it's got a shape and all that, but it really kind of looks like a flag, a pennant, or a flag with a flagpole. And then you're seeing is a sharp rise or fall, depending which way the trend's going. It's going to go the opposite way for a short period of time with a sharp rise or fall, depending, and going the opposite way of the trend, and then pick up the trend after that. And what you'll see also is that the pole part of it, that's where trading volume is. That's where you get this spike up in like your chart where you always see this a large amount of trading volume. A lot of people are trading, they're buying and selling the security very frequently. So you see a large, trading volume at the base of the flagpole. And then your pennant could either be at the top of the flagpole or at the bottom of the flagpole. But it's the idea of that volume is what's making your flagpole. So if we were to look at this chart pattern, and for fun, I threw in an area chart. You can see the top there, the peaks of these mountains are the prices, that they're, closing prices that they're at on this chart. And along the bottom is volume, represented by green would be an up day and red would be a down day as far as the trading on that particular day on this particular style of chart. So you can see the prices, then look to the bottom as far as the volume. And if you look from left to right, not much is happening, though it does look like we're in a definite downtrend. And if those bars get, on the horizontal bars, the volume, the trading activity, you can see there's a big downward dip as far as the trading activity that goes there. And then all of a sudden it reaches a bottom, and then it shoots back up and then continues the downtrend. And if you can kind of see where those green bars are, you start envisioning a flagpole there, start envisioning that there's a flagpole, there's going to be a reversal of the dominant trend, and then at the top we might have something that looks somewhat like a pennant around that. If we add some lines on here, you can kind of see, where it's that pennant forming. It's kind of a triangle. It's kind of a more rectangle-ish as far as being more parallel lines. But the green lines on the bottom, which is the spike in trading volume, is one thing you need to be part of a flag pattern. Your flag needs a flagpole, so you can see how it's all of a sudden had this big reversal, shot way up, and kind of forms this flagpole with a pretty big pennant on there. In this particular example, where there's this big spike in profits in prices that come up. But then what happens? It starts to go back to the original trend. That's why this is considered a continuation pattern. So if we put the, let's say, a trend line on top of that, you can see that once you get past this kind of flagpole, idea, it's going to go back to that original trend. So the way to trade a flag is, let's say you see this dramatic volume, you see this dramatic spike up, and you might be able to trade in there early enough to make some profits and then get back out right away. At least in this one where we're looking at a downward trending one. An upward trending flagpole would be the opposite around that with an upward trend. But typically when I see flags, and really I see them as more, because I'm used to the traditional look of a flag on a flagpole, I guess that makes it easier for me to see when I'm seeing something in a downward trend and I'm really trying to trade on that upward spike, is how I treat it and how most people do it if they all of a sudden see a flag. Something's happened to cause that flag. That's why the trading volume comes up. There's probably some type of event or some news there. Maybe there's anticipation of a good earnings announcement after a series of bad ones, or if it was a stock, or something's going on in the crypto or Forex market, if you're trading those types of securities. Something's happened to cause the flag to, that big sharp rise. But then after that event happens, people are like, no, this is still not a great security. It needs to downtrend some more. And you can see where it picks back up on that trend. So flags can be, if you see them forming and you can get in soon enough, let's say, especially when you have that sharp reversal for the uptrend before it goes back down again, can be a great way to get a trade in there, make a little profit, maybe quite a bit of profit, and then get out right away because it's getting very spiky there. Just make sure you get out before the overall continuation trend keeps going back, as far as pushing those prices back down. Let's say if you're buying in more towards Well, if you like triangles, you might really like rectangles. And rectangles, like triangles, are a trading range that are bounded by a support line on the bottom and a resistance line at the top. However, instead of converging, it's more running parallel, forming the shape of a rectangle, as you'll see. And they'll continue along that kind of path, which gives us a lot of good trading opportunities inside the path until there's a breakout of the rectangle. Now you might say to yourself, well, which way does it break? Does it have a tendency to go a certain way, whether it's going to break through a support line or resistance line? The answer to that, because it's a continuation pattern, is it's going to follow the direction of that previous trend. See how continuation patterns will follow the original trend compared to, let's say, reversal patterns. But rectangles are by nature a continuation pattern. So we'll be watching those trends and that overall direction of prices, either up or down, and then we'll see how the rectangle forms, and then we'll see how we can maybe trade around that. So if you look towards the middle of the chart and think about those support line at the bottom and a resistance line at the top, if you were to draw those two lines, and form a rectangle, just visually look at this for a moment. What might it look like on your chart? Where you'd be drawing it on there? Think connecting the highs and the highs together, maybe at the top, and lows to lows with horizontal lines. So if you saw something looked like something like this, well, terrific, you were right. If not, that's okay too. We're learning here. That's the whole idea. I just want to give you a little kind of mini idea as we're going here. And you can see in this particular rectangle pattern that there's an uptrend that we're entering into the rectangle into. So in this case, there's a continuation pattern, so it'd be a definite direction, which was this uptrend. But then it gets kind of in this narrow trading range of resistance and support lines. It goes up and bounces at a resistance line, which can't push the prices higher. The buyers or the bulls can't push the prices higher, so prices come back down. But a new trend doesn't form. It doesn't turn into a downtrend. It basically stops at that support line and then turns around and starts going back up towards the resistance line, and so on, trading in this range. And how wide the distance between the resistance line and the support line will vary by the security and at that moment of time. Sometimes they can be very, very narrow. Sometimes they can be much wider, of course. So it's not so much the idea of how wide or narrow it is. It's more of that it's actually formed this rectangular pattern. And if we look at that, you can say, oh, well, there's opportunities where I might want to buy, or there's opportunities where I might want to sell within a rectangle pattern. And that's true. We want to make sure that the pattern has fully formed. So again, we're looking to buy in at the number 2 or 3 touch of it. You could buy in, let's say you can see the first touch there. I don't have an arrow there. The second touch, I don't have an arrow there too, though a lot of people buy in the second touch at that support line. A real good confirming way is to buy in at that third line. You can put in a buy number 1. And then you can wait for it to come back down. It's either going to break through that resistance line at the top and keep going, but if it turns around, there's a really good chance it's going to bounce again off that support line. So once it comes back down, if you're a little bit later or seeing this later or want to be more sure, you could buy at the number 2 position here. So you can buy in a second, third, or fourth touch. If you're looking to sell the security, one thing you can do is do a lot of trading instead of waiting for the trend to go back in a certain direction. You could just trade frequently within the rectangle. So every time it comes up to a resistance line, that's where I'm selling. So I would be buying, let's say, at the support lines, let it have its run up, sell it to take my profits, let it come back down. Right now I'm out of the security. Once it gets down back that support line and rectangle holds, I'll buy it again, and then kind of repeat that until it breaks through as far as breaking the pattern. But until then, what a nice trading opportunity to trade frequently as far as buying and selling within inside the rectangular pattern. All right, so let's say in our rectangle here, where do you think the price will go next, right? I mean, we're now at the top, we're at a resistance line. It could either break through the resistance line and go, basically go upwards, to where I've labeled letter A, or it could turn back around and go to letter B.
मैंने आपको सारे के सारे चैट पैटर्न्स बता दिए हैं। अभी मैं आपकी कमेंट सेक्शन भी देखना चाहती हूँ कि आप लोग क्या पूछ रहे थे। अभी हम क्वेरीज की तरफ जाएंगे, ठीक है? दिस गोइंग टू बी द सेकेंड लास्ट सेशन ऑफ माइन। कल लास्ट सेशन होगा गाइस, एंड उसके बाद नो लाइव स्ट्रीम, नो शुबीज लाइव, ठीक है? हेलो BS राजपूत सर, गुड मॉर्निंग। BS राजपूत, थैंक यू सो मच। ओके, सो गाइस, आपको मैं बता देती हूँ हाउ यू कैन ट्रेड, ठीक है? लेट मी स्टार्ट विद दिस बेसिक क्वेश्चंस कि हमें सीखना होता है, ठीक है? मैं इसलिए आपके सामने ये ओपन कर रही हूँ क्योंकि मैं अगर बोलूंगी तो आप लोग सुनते नहीं है, सुनते तो समझ नहीं पाते कुछ चीजें। इससे अच्छा है कि वी विल शेयर यू द स्क्रीन एंड मैं अपनी स्क्रीन पे बात करूँ, ठीक है? स्टार्ट ट्रेडिंग इन BTC Dana app. Okay. So, if you want to start trading in BTC Dana app, okay, how to trade? I'm telling you everything. To start trading on BTC Dana app, you must download the application, register an account, complete identity verification, deposit some funds and execute a buy or sell trade. ठीक है? BTC functions क्या करना है? पहले रजिस्टर करना है, आपको अकाउंट क्रिएट करना है। अकाउंट क्रिएट करने के लिए क्या करना पड़ेगा? अकाउंट क्रिएट करने के लिए? जब बैंक पे जाते हैं अकाउंट ओपन करने के लिए, तो क्या करते हैं अकाउंट ओपन करने के लिए? कोई आंसर दे मुझे प्लीज। आज मेरे पास बहुत टाइम है। आई विल वेट फॉर योर आंसर्स। BS राजपूत सर, बोलिए। चलिए बोलिए। अकाउंट ओपन करने के लिए क्या करना चाहिए गाइस? टेल मी, टेल मी। मैडम जी, बढ़िया है, थैंक यू। बताइए बताइए BS राजपूत सर, अकाउंट ओपन करने के लिए हमें क्या करना पड़ेगा BTC दाना पे? अकाउंट ओपन करने के लिए आपको डिपॉजिट करना पड़ता है, ठीक है। यू मस्ट डाउनलोड द एप्लीकेशन, रजिस्टर एन अकाउंट, कंप्लीट आइडेंटिफाई वेरिफिकेशन एंड डिपॉजिट सम फंड्स। आपको फंड्स डिपॉजिट करने पड़ेंगे क्योंकि आपको अकाउंट ओपन करना है। Execute a buy or sell trade. BTC function as a multi-asset broker or operating through contracts for different CFTs. BTC Dana function as multi-asset broker operating through contracts for differences CFDs, which allows you to trade price movements without owing the actual underlying asset. आपको गूगल प्ले स्टोर से या एप्पल प्ले स्टोर से आपको अकाउंट लेना है एंड ओपन करना है, ठीक है। ओपन द ऐप, देन साइन अप एंड यूजिंग योर ईमेल एड्रेस और फोन नंबर। अपलोड अ गवर्नमेंट इशूड ID कार्ड टू सिक्योर योर अकाउंट एंड satisfy स्टैंडर्ड रेगुलेटरी चेक्स। आपको ओपन करना है अकाउंट को अपना ID कार्ड यूज करके। आप फ्री डेमो अकाउंट भी यूज कर सकते हैं जो BTC दाना पे है। Account inside the app to practice $2,000 in virtual funds completely risk free। 2000 जो डॉलर्स है उससे आप क्या कर सकते हैं, एक फ्री डेमो अकाउंट आपको दिया जाता है जिसमें $2000 होता है। यू कैन यूज दैट फॉर योर ट्रेडिंग बिकॉज इट इज रिस्क फ्री। डिपॉजिट द लाइव फंड्स। अभी आप लाइव फंड्स कैसे देखेंगे? आपको गो टू द डिपॉजिट मेनू एंड यू कैन फंड योर अकाउंट यूजिंग लोकल फंड पेमेंट मेथड्स, ई वॉलेट्स और बैंक ट्रांसफर। उस पे जाके आप आराम से जो है, जैसे अभी मेरे लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग पे आके आप डिपॉजिट कर सकते हैं रियल मनी और उसे यूज कर सकते हैं फॉर योर ट्रेडिंग। Browse the market tab to choose from 100 instruments including cryptocurrency like BTC, USDT, Forex, gold or stocks. You can use your BTC for different type of you can use your amount for buying and purchasing different cryptocurrencies. Analyze the chart. You have to analyze the chart. Choose your lot size. Also, you have to optional stop loss take boundaries. You have to take that. Tap buy if you expect prices to rise and sell if you expect the prices to fall. Now, there are the rules and the platform fees that you have to note. Varies by region, typically starting around $5 to $50. अब मिनिमम डिपॉजिट की वैल्यू क्या है हमारी? $3 है। मैक्सिमम कोई लिमिट नहीं है, तो हमारी मिनिमम क्या है? मिनिमम डिपॉजिट इज $3, ओके। Minimum withdrawal set at $10 per individual transactions. You can withdraw the transaction minimum. आपको transaction if you want to withdraw is $10. Maximum I think there is no limit. Withdrawal fees. Flat charge of $1 deducted per transaction. $1 कटता है एक transaction के order पे, ठीक है? It's called a platform fee. Overnight swap. Fees applied to positions held over the next day. $2 lot for forex metals and $5 for indices. It is called a fees applied to position. आपको fees पे करनी पड़ेगी forex और metals केस में, तो वो forex दाना का है, इसमें नहीं है। क्रिप्टो में important नहीं है। Up to 1 to 500 leverage is available, boosting exposure but dramatically accelerating the risk. Leverage available होता है, आपको leverage भी दिया जाता है, तो you can use that to do the trade. तो ये था ट्रेड के बारे में, how to trade in BTC दाना। कुछ questions पूछना है? अगर आप पूछना ही नहीं चाहते तो why would I like keep on talking to you? आप लोग बात ही नहीं करते हैं, कोई रिस्पॉन्स नहीं आता है। नो वन इज एक्चुअली इंटरेस्टेड इन नोइंग और आंसरिंग और क्वेश्चनिंग अबाउट एनीथिंग। व्हाई गाइस, व्हाई दिस इज हैपनिंग? आज सेकेंड क्लास है, यू शुड एटलीस्ट स्पीक अप, बी इंटरैक्टिव। बस BS राजपूत सर ही मुझसे बात करते रहते हैं और कोई बात नहीं करता। मैं अपना पूरा टाइम दे रही हूँ आपको, बता रही हूँ कुछ। इतना ज़्यादा आपको पता है बात करने में कितनी एनर्जी लगती है, एंड नो वन इज एक्चुअली इंटरेस्टेड इन टॉकिंग टू मी। आप क्या चाहते हैं कि मैं यहाँ पे बस चार्ट लगा दूँ और गाने लगा दूँ एंड फिर वो होता रहे, कोई इंटरेक्शन ना हो? ये चाहते हैं आप? नहीं चाहते ना? तो बात कीजिए प्लीज, अच्छे से बात कीजिए, अपने क्वेश्चंस अपनी क्वेरीज बताएं। ऐसे ज्यादा अच्छा है ना कि सामने आपको होस्ट आपसे बात कर रहा है, आपसे पूछ रहा है, या मैं बस अभी लेक्चर्स लगा के मतलब गायब हो जाऊँ और आप पढ़ते रहे, देखते रहे, ऐसा करूँ? नहीं ना? बात करिए, टॉक टू मी, आस्क क्वेश्चंस, पूछिए। आप इस ऐप पे क्यों आते हैं? सीखने के लिए आते हैं, सीखिए, पूछिए क्वेश्चंस, बताइए, डिपॉज़िट के बारे में पूछिए, अकाउंट ओपन करने के बारे में पूछिए, किसी भी चीज़ के बारे में पूछना है तो पूछिए। बट एट लीस्ट आस्क क्वेश्चंस, नेविगेट एवरीथिंग ऑफ योर्स, क्योंकि ये सारी चीज़ें आपको वापस मिलेगी भी नहीं, ठीक है? मैं अपना काम करके जा सकती हूँ, मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। मैं किसी से बात नहीं करूँगी तो भी चलेगा। बट अगर आप लोग मुझसे बात नहीं करेंगे तो ये जो लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग है वो आपके लिए हुई थी स्टार्ट। तो अगर आप नहीं बात करेंगे तो कोई फ़ायदा नहीं है ना। वैसे भी कल के बाद तो आप मुझसे बात करने का आपको चांस भी नहीं मिलेगा। सो अगर आपको जो भी पूछना है आज और कल में पूछ लीजिए मुझसे। डिपॉज़िट करना है जाते-जाते मेरे बैनर से तो कर दीजिए। आपको अकाउंट ही ओपन हो जाएगा, ओके? हाय अकिंग सर। I understand that my live streaming actually happens weekly, but that doesn't mean that I'm not connected with any of you. I'm not connected to this app. I am really connected. I do have other also things, but I really wanted to tell you that whenever I get the chance to talk to you guys, whenever I get the chance to be here and do the live, that is actually worth it every time because I enjoy this. I enjoy talking to you. I enjoy sharing you the information and helping you guys. My main focus since the day I started as a live host, my main focus and motive was to help our customers. I really wanted to help all of you because I know the struggle that you have been going through because trading is not an easy part. It requires courage, it requires a lot of patience to start and choose a platform like this to start trading and invest your all funds into this app. You have to trust this app. You have to be consistent when you are doing this trading. I know that. I have gone, I can understand your scenarios. But the main thing is that whenever I am speaking to you guys, it's being an interactive session. As you have seen, when Reemam actually made the banner, you have seen that there are the keywords that's a live interaction and fun entertainment session, right? It was always meant to be an entertainment session, but I have changed it for you. हमेशा से ही एंटरटेनमेंट सेशन ही होना था बट मैंने चेंज किया है बिकॉज आई वांटेड टू हेल्प यू गाइस. I really wanted to help you in terms of trade. I wanted to give you trades. I wanted to talk to you. And I wanted to like हम क्या शेयर करें अपनी जर्नी, अपने लूप होल्स, अपने फॉल जर्नी, अपने कुछ ना कुछ ग्लिचेस so that could help and like what we can say, it could actually motivate other clients also to start trading in this app. So if you guys keep on answering, if you guys are open to listening, open to talking and like discussing with me these things, then I will be very grateful to you. ठीक है? Please understand this. It's very important. ठीक है? So guys आंसर करें, मुझसे क्वेश्चंस पूछे, बताया आपको पसंद आ रहा है या नहीं आ रहा है, आपको क्वेश्चन का आंसर मिला, हाउ टू ट्रेड, मेनी पीपल हैव आस्क्ड मी दिस, आपको मैंने बता दिया हाउ यू कैन ट्रेड. जिनको भी डिपॉज़िट करना है प्लीज़ डिपॉज़िट बैनर से क्लिक करके डिपॉज़िट कर सकते हैं, ओके? जो कमेंट करेगा उसे मिलेगा 500 बीटीसी कॉइन्स. नहीं 500 नहीं 10. I am listening to you, sir. You are not answering my questions. You are not answering to me. I am. Is there anyone what this kind of question is? You can see on the screen that I am available here talking to you guys. You can ask me any questions, but you guys are not at all interactive. One thing I got to know is that whenever I started with doing once मैडम जी आपके सब वीडियो डाउनलोड हो गए होंगे यूट्यूब में, मैं सब देख के ट्रेड और टारगेट अच्छे से सीख लूँगा। थैंक यू बीएस राजपूत सर। यूट्यूब पे सारे वीडियो अवेलेबल नहीं है। पुराने सारे महीनों के वीडियोस इट्स नॉट आई थिंक इट्स डिलीटेड और आई डोंट थिंक सो हैव बीन रिमूव्ड। मेरे कुछ ही वीडियोस हैं, आई थिंक 4 या 5 ही होंगे बीएस राजपूत सर। ठीक है? बीएस राजपूत सर आप अच्छे से ट्रेड लेना, आप लोगों की मदद करना, आपने काफ़ी ट्रेड्स लिए हैं, आपको एक्सपीरियंस है, ओके? मैं बस बैठूँगी आज, मैं आपसे बात करना चाहती हूँ, मैं आपसे पूछना चाहती हूँ, आपके क्वेश्चन्स लेना चाहती हूँ। क्वेश्चन्स नहीं आएँगे, मैं आगे नहीं बढ़ूँगी, मुझे कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, बैठी रहूँगी मैं। I have my work timings, I will do my work, but I want your interaction also. ठीक है? आप चाहते हैं अगर ये सेशन आगे बढ़े तो मुझसे क्वेश्चन पूछिए, मुझसे बात करें वरना आगे नहीं बढ़ा जाएगा। ठीक है? चलो। I am also that rigid then.
What happened?
रीमम अभी आज हम आगे तब तक नहीं बढ़ेंगे जब तक हमसे क्वेश्चंस और क्वेरीज नहीं पूछी जाएगी।
इंटरेक्शन नहीं कर रहे हैं?
कोई इंटरेक्शन नहीं है, आई एम जस्ट स्पीकिंग। इन्हें एक क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया हाउ टू ट्रेड, मैंने बता दिया। उसके बाद कोई आंसर नहीं है, कोई कुछ नहीं बोल रहा है। आई एम जस्ट स्पीकिंग लाइक आइडली, मैं किसी से भी ऐसे लग रहा है अलोन बात कर रही हूँ अकेले। तो मैं चाहती हूँ कि पहले ये लोग पूछे मुझसे, एक अच्छे से बात करें, फिर ही मैं आगे बढ़ूँ।
ये ठीक है। हमारे कमेंट नहीं दिख रहा है कि अमन से क्या कमेंट है, दोबारा लिखो।
हम्म।
क्या जवाब नहीं मिला है आपको? दोबारा से कमेंट करो, मैं देखती हूँ। ठीक
हाँ।
है। किंग सर वीआईपी ग्रुप में ऐड होने के लिए आप सभी को इन्फॉर्मेशन शेयर हो जाती है दैट कि आपको थम्स अप की साइड में डॉलर का साइन है, वहां से डिपॉजिट करना होता है। सबसे पहले अपना अकाउंट ओपन करना होता है। वंस यू डिपॉजिट तो आपका अकाउंट लाइफ टाइम के लिए ओपन हो जाता है और आप ऐड हो जाते हैं। सिंपल। डे
यस।
वन से आपको ये इन्फॉर्मेशन शेयर है और मैंने तो आपको बताया भी है कि बट विदाउट मनी ट्रेडिंग नहीं हो सकती है। ठीक है, लेट मी क्लियर दैट कि अगर आपके पास इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए अमाउंट नहीं होता है देन आप ट्रेड नहीं कर पाते। ओके।
राइट।
बताइए अमन सर क्या क्वेश्चन है आपका, मैं पढ़ना चाहती हूँ कि क्या क्वेश्चन है, कौन से क्वेश्चन का आपका जवाब नहीं मिला। आई डोंट थिंक सो कि आपने कोई क्वेश्चन पूछा होगा और शुद्धि मैम ने आपको आंसर नहीं किया होगा, बिकॉज वो एवरी क्वेश्चन का आंसर करेंगे तो आपके क्वेश्चन का आंसर क्यों नहीं करेंगे? वो तो बैठे हुए
हाँ।
हैं दैट कि आप उनसे कोई क्वेश्चन पूछो और वो आंसर करें। सही बात है दैट कि जब तक आप क्वेश्चन नहीं पूछोगे तो उन्हें कैसे पता चलेगा दैट कि आपको इशू क्या है। वो बताते रहेंगे टिल नाउ तक उन्होंने इतनी सारी इंफॉर्मेशन ऑलरेडी शेयर कर दिया। आई डोंट थिंक सो कि और कोई लाइव में आपको इतनी इंफॉर्मेशन शेयर की जाती है जितनी इस लाइव में आपको इंफॉर्मेशन शेयर करते हैं। ठीक है।
थैंक यू।
तो आई रियली डोंट थिंक सो दैट कि आपका कोई क्वेश्चन है बाय मिस्टेकनली अगर वो मिस हो भी गया है। आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट कि आपने लिखा नहीं होगा, मे बी आपने टाइप किया होगा, बट वो अगर मिस हो गया या और कमेंट्स आ गए तो आप दोबारा भी लिख सकते हैं। ठीक है।
राइट।
तो क्या कोई $150 लॉस हुआ है? नो वरीज, आपने फॉलो नहीं किया होगा प्रॉपर, और लॉस और प्रॉफिट तो ट्रेडिंग का पार्ट है। ठीक है। अगर आप प्रॉफिट को कंज्यूम करते हो तो आपको फिर लॉस को भी कंज्यूम करना सीखना होता है। बिकॉज ऐसा नहीं है कि कोई आपको ट्रेड प्रोवाइड कराता है 10 या मंथ के आपको 20 या 90 ट्रेड आपको प्रोवाइड करा दिए, तो कोई भी ऐसा नहीं होता है दैट कि 90 आपको प्रॉफिट ही होता है। ठीक है। मेक
राइट।
श्योर करें अगर आप प्रॉफिट को कंज्यूम करते हो तो फिर आपको लॉस को भी कंज्यूम करना सीखना होता है इसी में, ठीक है। वंस यू लर्न दिस ना, जब आप ये सीख जाते हो तो उसके बाद आप लॉस कम करते हो, ठीक है। अगर आप ऐसे ही रहता है दैट कि हमें तो लॉस हो रहा है, सिर्फ लॉस हो रहा है, अगर आपको ज्यादा ही लॉस हो गया तो मे बी पॉसिबल दैट कि आपने फॉलो नहीं किया होगा, ठीक है।
करेक्ट।
और अगर आपने फॉलो किया होगा तब भी लॉस हो रहा है तो कोई बात नहीं, ठीक है। आज आपको लॉस हो रहा है तो कल आपको प्रॉफिट भी हो सकता है, लेकिन उसके लिए आपको सीखना पड़ता है, ठीक है। मैम हमें ट्रेड
राइट।
समझ में नहीं आता, अगर आपको ट्रेड समझ में नहीं आता है तो आप थोड़ा सा वेट करो, ठीक है। जो इंफॉर्मेशन आपको शेयर की जाती है आप उसको फॉलो करो, ओके। बाकी हमारे जितने भी एक्सपर्ट्स हैं वो आपको लाइव भी लाइव होती है मंडे टू फ्राइडे, इवन सैटरडे संडे ड्यूम्स की भी लाइव होती है, उसमें मैं रहती हूँ, ठीक है। उसमें ऑलरेडी आपको इन्फॉर्मेशन शेयर करते हैं, तो अगर आपको डाउट है, लाइक अगर आपको नहीं आ रहा है, ट्रेड समझ में नहीं आ रही है, ट्रेडिंग समझ नहीं आ रही है, तो फिर आप बेसिक से शुरू करो, ठीक है। स्टेप बाय स्टेप आगे बढ़ो, ऐसा नहीं है कि अक्कड़ बक्कड़ किया कोई भी ट्रेड ले लिया और उसमें लॉस हो गया, वो ऐसे ही होता है, ठीक है। अगर आप किसी को भी फॉलो नहीं करते हो, अगर लॉजिकली ट्रेड नहीं लेते हो तो आपको लॉस होता ही होता है, ठीक है। तो फिर
यस।
आप किसी को फॉलो करो, इतने सारे ट्रेडर्स हैं हमारी लाइफ में इस प्लेटफॉर्म पर, वो काफी एक्सपीरियंस्ड है गाइस। उनका एक्सपीरियंस होने का मतलब ये है दैट कि उनको आपसे थोड़ा ज्यादा ही आता होगा, दैट इज द रीजन कि वो एक्सपीरियंस है और इस प्लेटफॉर्म पे वो ट्रेड प्रोवाइड कराते हैं, ठीक है। तो आप लोग फॉलो करो प्रॉपरली, ठीक है। कुछ समझ में नहीं आता है तो आप जिसको भी, कोई भी मेंटोर जो भी है आपका, उनको आप उनकी लाइव अटेंड करो, उसमें क्वेश्चनिंग करो, तब जब तक आप पूछोगे नहीं तब तक किसी को क्या पता चलेगा दैट कि आपको क्या इशू है, ठीक है।
राइट।
अगर आप नहीं बताओगे दैट कि आपको ट्रेड नहीं आता है, आपको नहीं पता, आपको नहीं पता कि ट्रेड कैसे करना है, कौन सा ट्रेड सेल करना है, कौन सा बाय करना है, तो आप उनकी लाइव अटेंड करो, आप उनके टेलीग्राम में ऐड हो, वहां पर ट्रेड प्रोवाइड होते हैं, वहां पे इंफॉर्मेशन शेयर की जाती है, आपको लॉजिकली आंसर दिया जाता है दैट कि आपको ये जो ट्रेड है ये इसको बाय या सेल करने का पीछे लॉजिक क्या है, ठीक है। तो जब तक आप लोग नहीं समझोगे ना तब तक आप लोग फिर लॉस ही करते हो, ठीक है। लेकिन ट्रेडिंग इज अ पार्ट, प्रॉफिट और लॉस दोनों ही पार्ट है, ठीक है। लॉस भी होता है और प्रॉफिट भी होता है, तो आप इन दोनों को ही कंज्यूम किया करें, ठीक है। लेकिन
यस।
अगर आप अभी तक सिर्फ लॉस ही लॉस करते हो, प्रॉफिट नहीं करते हो, तो यू मे प्लीज स्टॉप, ठीक है। थोड़ा सा वेट करो, पहले समझ लो अच्छे से, ठीक है। इसके ट्रेड आपको फॉलो करने, क्या इन्फॉर्मेशन वो लोग शेयर कर रहे हैं तो उसको समझो एंड देन रीस्टार्ट कर दो, ठीक है। सिंपल एज दैट। कहाँ
थैंक
आता
यू।
है टेलीग्राम पर, कुछ नहीं आते। अमन से किसके टेलीग्राम पर है? आप ऐड हो, मुझे बताओगे थोड़े से, क्योंकि ट्रेड तो टेलीग्राम पर ही मिलते हैं, जहां तक मुझे पता है ट्रेड टेलीग्राम पर ही मिलते हैं, ओके। और लाइव अटेंड करो आप, लाइव में जो भी क्वेश्चन है वो पूछा करो अपने, आप ही लोग के लिए तो लाइव आते हैं गाइस। ऐसा भी नहीं है दैट कि आपके मैसेजेस को इग्नोर कर दिया जाता है, ऐसा भी नहीं होता है ना।
यस।
और रियल टाइम पे जो भी एंट्रीज होती है वो तो आपको शेयर की जाती है। परमेश्वरा मैम ये सही है क्या? क्या क्या सही है सर, पूछो।
रीमा मैम, दिल्ली का हाल कैसा है?
बकवास।
ठीक है।
बहुत बेकार,
तो
मतलब
हाँ।
इतनी गर्मी है यार, इतनी गर्मी है, ट्रस्ट मी। बारिश
हम्म,
वगैरह कुछ नहीं होती है इधर, थोड़ी
यहाँ पे
बहुत हो भी
बारिश ही
गई,
बारिश।
थोड़ी बहुत हो भी गई ना तो उसमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता,
यहाँ
ठीक है।
पे कल से
मतलब
बारिश है रीमा मैम।
है, अरे यार हमारे इधर भी गिरा दो। अवन से 3 मैसेज इग्नोर हुआ है तो आपको इन्फॉर्मेशन तो शेयर कर दी है ना, इग्नोर नहीं कहते हैं उसको, कि उसमें दूसरे मैसेजेस आ जाते हैं तो वो आपके ऊपर चले जाते हैं, दोबारा मैसेज टाइप कर दिया करो, ठीक है। नो नीड टू वरी।
यस। ठीक है। एक्चुअली मेरा जो ऐप है वो थोड़ा ओल्ड वाला है ना, इसलिए मैसेज शो नहीं होते शायद।
हो जाता है,
हम्म।
टोटली नो नॉर्मल, अगर कोई दूसरे मैसेजेस आ जाते हैं तो आपके मैसेज ऊपर चले जाते हैं, लेकिन इसका
ठीक।
मतलब ये नहीं कि आप दोबारा से टाइप नहीं कर पाओगे, आप दोबारा से भी टाइप कर सकते हो गाइस, इतने सारे कमेंट्स होते हैं, सबका रिप्लाई करना होता है, तो एक दो मिस भी हो जाते हैं तो आप दोबारा कर दिया करो,
यस।
इसमें क्या इशू आता
ठीक।
है बताओ। इतनी इंफॉर्मेशन शेयर करते हैं, आपको तो टाइप करना होता है काफी, यहाँ पे मैम को तो इतना इंफॉर्मेशन आपको शेयर करना होता है ना, बोलना पड़ता है। ठीक है, तो कभी कभी मिस भी हो जाता है। ठीक है, तो आप ऐसे मत कहिए दैट कि इग्नोर हो जाता है, बिल्कुल आपको इग्नोर इग्नोर नहीं किया जा रहा है। आप दोबारा से मैसेज टाइप कर दिया करो, आंसर आपको मिल जाएगा क्वेश्चन का। ठीक है, इसमें ट्रेडिंग करना लीगल है बिल्कुल। हाय वीर सर, हेलो। कैन आई आस्क वन क्वेश्चन प्लीज? यस श्योर, आप ही के लिए तो है हम। यू मे प्लीज आस्क, जो भी क्वेश्चन है, जिसके भी क्वेश्चन है वो पूछ लीजिए गाइस। आप सभी को पता है दैट की शुभी मैम की ये जो लाइव है, ये सेकेंड लास्ट लाइव है, तो कल लास्ट होगा। ठीक है, तो आपको जो भी क्वेरीज मैम से पूछनी है, मैम को थैंक यू करना है, तो वो आप कर दो। ठीक
यस,
है।
ओके। तो थैंक यू री मैम। अभी हम एक क्वेश्चन ले लेते हैं। अभी बहुत लोगों के मन में एक क्वेश्चन आता है, हाउ टू रिकवर फ्रॉम लॉस। सो आई एम गोइंग टू टेल यू दैट इफ यू आर लाइक हैविंग और सफर्ड एनी लॉस इन दिस ऐप और कोई भी ऐप में, इन एनी ऐप, सो व्हाट यू हैव टू डू इज टू रिकवर फ्रॉम ट्रेडिंग अ लॉस यू मस्ट हॉल्ट एक्टिव ट्रेडिंग। मतलब अगर आपको लॉस हो गया तो यू व्हाट यू हैव टू डू, आपको जो ट्रेडिंग को है उसको रोकना पड़ेगा, एक्टिव ट्रेडिंग को। जैसे कि फॉर एग्जांपल अभी मुझे इथेरियम में लॉस हो गया, तो मैं बीटीसी की अभी ट्रेडिंग को रोक दूंगी, बिकॉज मुझे और लॉस होने की पॉसिबिलिटी बढ़ जाती है। एनालाइज व्हाट वेंट रॉन्ग। अगर मुझे पता होना चाहिए कि मुझे एनालाइज करना है कि कैसे मुझे मुझे इतना बड़ा लॉस हो गया। सो उसके लिए व्हाट आई हैव टू डू, आई हैव टू रीचेक कि मैंने कितने पे स्टॉप लॉस लगाया था एंड एट हाउ मच प्राइस आई हैव सोल्ड इट। या फिर ऐसा होता है कि आप अगर हमारे ऐप से ट्रेडिंग करते हैं तो आपको ऑलरेडी हम लोग देते हैं ट्रेड रिलेटेड सिग्नल्स, राइट। तो फिर स्टॉप लॉस आप किस में लगाते हैं, फिर आप कैसे, आपको कब बेचना है, वो आपको हमसे सिग्नल्स मिलते हैं, राइट। सो यू हैव टू एनालाइज दैट। इम्प्लीमेंट अ स्ट्रिक्ट रिस्क मैनेजमेंट स्ट्रैटेजी बिफोर रिस्किंग एनी मोर कैपिटल। आपको हमेशा एक रिस्किंग स्ट्रैटेजी रखनी होनी होनी चाहिए, एक रिस्क स्ट्रैटेजी। जैसे फॉर एग्जांपल कि मेरा बिजनेस बैकग्राउंड है, तो मुझे पता है कि जब हम कोई बिजनेस करते हैं तो हम किस हिसाब से प्लान करते हैं। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल मैंने पास्ट में बिजनेस किया था, तो मैं उसका एक एक्सपीरियंस शेयर करती हूँ। जब मैंने वो बिजनेस स्टार्ट किया था तो आई वाज लाइक, मुझे ऐसा करना था कि मैं अपने कस्टमर्स को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा सेल करना चाहूँगी, और उनको सेल करने के बाद मेरा था सेल मोर एंड प्रॉफिट हम बाद में देखेंगे। प्रॉफिट मेरा फर्स्ट मंथ में, मेरा प्रॉफिट वाज नॉट द गोल, मेरा प्रॉफिट वाज टू सेल मोर, ठीक है। तो मैंने सेल बहुत किया। आई थिंक आई हैव लाइक क्वाइट वेल, लाइक 100 में से 70-80% मैंने बहुत सेल किया, ठीक है। 20% सेल नहीं किया, बट 70% या 80% सेल किया। तो मुझे पता भी नहीं था कि मुझे कितना प्रॉफिट होगा। पर जब मैंने बाद में प्रॉफिट निकाला तो इट वाज अराउंड 10 to 20, 30% ऑफ द प्रॉफिट आई गॉट of like selling 70% of my product, ठीक है। तो 30% मुझे प्रॉफिट मिला, 70% मैंने बेचा। अब मेरी गलती कहाँ हुई होगी कि मैंने बेचा तो काफ़ी है, बट मुझे इतना कम क्यों, मतलब इतना कम प्रॉफिट क्यों मिला। आई नो कि उसका कुछ हाफ होना चाहिए, बट 35 इज़ ऑल्सो फाइन, ओके। पर फिर भी मैंने ऐसा सोचा कि मैंने कुछ और स्ट्रैटेजीज लेनी चाहिए, तो उसके लिए मैंने क्या किया, मैंने जो है अपने प्राइस को बढ़ाया। आई मीन मैंने एम किया कि मुझे ज़्यादा में सेल करना है और कम में बाय करना है, ठीक है। क्या करना है, मुझे ज़्यादा में सेल करना है और कम में मैं वो प्रोडक्ट बाय करूँगी। तो अगर मेरा प्रोडक्ट है 20 रुपीज़ का, सेल करूँगी मैं 60 रुपीज़ का, तो मुझे 40 रुपीज़ का प्रॉफिट होगा, जो कि मुझे आई थिंक 2.5, आई थिंक 3%, 3% या 3% प्रॉफिट मिलेगा। 2% की चीज़ पे मुझे 3% प्रॉफिट मिलेगा, दैट इज़ कॉल्ड अ प्रॉफिट फॉर मी। सो आप लोगों के लिए भी सेम चीज़ें है कि व्हेन यू आर सेलिंग एनीथिंग, मेक श्योर व्हाट एट विच अमाउंट यू हैव परचेज। अगर आपने बीटीसी दाना या बीटीसी जो कॉइन है वो आपने खरीदा है 100 पे, तो एम कीजिए कि मेरा प्रॉफिट जो है वो एटलीस्ट 150 तक हो, मुझे 100 का 150 मिल जाए, एटलीस्ट 50 रुपए तो मुझे वापस आए। मैंने 100 में खरीदा है, 150 या मैं 200 में सेल करता हूँ तो मुझे 100 रुपये मिलेंगे। पर अगर मैं 100 का लेके 200 एंड आई थिंक 250 पे सेल करता हूँ तो मुझे 150 मिलेंगे। तो कितना प्रॉफिट हो गया, 150 रुपये का प्रॉफिट हो गया, करेक्ट। तो 150 रुपए के प्रॉफिट के लिए मुझे क्या करना पड़ेगा, कम में बाय करके और में सेल करना पड़ेगा, ठीक है। दैट इज कॉल्ड रिस्क मैनेजमेंट स्ट्रैटेजी। बिफोर रिस्किंग एनी मोर कैपिटल यू हैव टू मेंटेन दिस रिस्क मैनेजमेंट स्ट्रैटेजी। स्टॉप ट्रेडिंग इमीडिएटली। अगर आप बीटीसी दाना पे, तो कुछ टिप्स हैं। आपको ब्रेक लेना चाहिए, अवॉइड रिवेंज ट्रेडिंग, never increase your trade sizes immediately after a loss to trade and win back your money. It doesn't make any sound, it does no good to you. Avoid revenge trading, never increase your trade sizes immediately after a loss to try and win back the money. Protect your existing balance by freezing all new positions until your mindset is clear. Always remain calm, composed, and patient when it comes to the capital trading. Protect your existing balance by freezing all new positions. What you have to do, you have to freeze all your new positions. What you can do when you are freezing a position, you are making your mindset clear that you're not going to trade more than this. Conduct a post-mortem analysis. Post-mortem, post-mortem means you have to dig deeper into the part. आपको अंदर अंदर जाके डिग करना होता है कि क्या राइट है, क्या रॉन्ग है, क्या हुआ होगा. दैट इज ऑल कॉल्ड पोस्टमार्टम. So identify the cause, determine if the loss was due to an unpredictable market event, missing a stop loss or leverage, calculate the exact percentage of your account that was lost so you know the reality of starting point. Reduce your trading volume to absolute minimum size. Okay, enforce a loss settle hard daily and you can see कि आपको जो है lower lot size निकालना चाहिए. Reduce your trading volume to absolute minimum sizes. 0.01 micro lots when you resume. आपको कितने से शुरू करना है लॉट? 0.01 वॉल्यूम से आगे की तरफ जाके. सेट अ हार्ड डेली और वीकली लॉस लिमिट 2% टू योर अकाउंट और ऐप. तो आपको 3% या 2% लगाना है अकाउंट को, ताकि आपका जो डेली लिमिट है, वीकली लॉस लिमिट है, 2% तक ही सीमित रह जाए, वो आगे ना जाए. वेयर द ऐप गेट्स क्लोज ऑटोमेटिकली. Always use stop losses. Never enter a contract for different CFD positions पे मत चाहिए. Always make sure that you always use the app for contract for different positions without a predetermined or predefined unmovable stop loss order. Stop loss order के चक्कर में हमेशा यूज़ करिए कि आपको stop loss जो है आपके लिए एक बैरियर की तरह होना चाहिए. आप गाड़ी चलाते हैं, स्पीड ब्रेकर आता है ताकि आप जो है वो बचते रहे. अगर स्पीड ब्रेकर नहीं होगा तो आप बहुत फास्ट निकल जाएंगे. फास्ट निकल जाएंगे तो एक्सीडेंट हो सकते हैं, इमरजेंसी लाइफ थ्रेटनिंग कंडीशन हो सकती है. सो यूज स्टॉप लॉस एज अ स्पीड ब्रेकर. Always make sure that you always have a targeted stop loss already set in the trading or while trading, so that you can use the stop loss for trading in other things. Okay. Then rebuild momentum via demo trading. Return to the BTC Dana demo account to test if your strategy still works in the market or not. You have to return to the BTC Dana again while you do the demo trading, because if you are like got succeed in doing the demo trading, then you can start doing the test if your strategy still works in the market. Focus on executing 5 to 10 consecutive trades perfectly according to the rules. एटलीस्ट एम फॉर 5 to 10 consecutive ट्रेड्स. फर्स्ट अगर आप 5 से 10 ट्रेड्स लेते हैं और आपके सारे 5 से 10 ट्रेड जो है वो राइट होते हैं, तो फिर हम देख सकते हैं कि यस, आपको जो है वो अब ट्रेड आ रहा है और यू कैन डू द सेम विद द रियल मनी. ठीक है. देन सेकेंड, ओनली डिपॉजिट फ्रेश और ट्रेड रियल कैपिटल वंस यू हैव प्रूव्ड कंसिस्टेंसी सिमिलर. ओके. अब वो कैपिटल वगैरह जो है वो अपने हिसाब से आपको लगाना है. ठीक है. हो गई. अब मैं आपको लेक्चर्स करवाती हूँ, जो बचे हुए लेक्चर्स हमारे रह गए हैं. डेड कैट बाउंस एक नाम का वो होता है, एक ट्रेंड पैटर्न. वो देख लेते हैं कैसा होता है ट्रेंड पैटर्न. तो मैं आपको स्टॉप. यस.
Arguably one of the funnest.
Okay, so hello विकी सर. बीटीसी बाय या सेल वो अभी आपको बता देंगे. ठीक है. ट्रेडिंग परफेक्ट टाइम कौन सा है मैम? सर ट्रेडिंग परफेक्ट टाइम तो मार्केट के ऊपर डिपेंड करता है. राइट. जब मार्केट अच्छी होती है ना तभी ट्रेडिंग परफेक्ट होती है. वो कभी भी हो सकती है. मीन्स अप एंड डाउन तो होते ही रहते हैं ना. तो हम यही
राइट.
कहेंगे दैट कि सभी टाइम अच्छे हैं यार. वो डिपेंड करता है मार्केट के ऊपर सिर्फ. ठीक है.
हम्म.
और अमन से कह रहे हैं इसीलिए तो हम लिखी कर बोले मैम, कमेंट नहीं दिख रहा था। ओके, कोई बात नहीं अमन से, नो issues। अभी जो भी कोई क्वेरी है आपकी वो आप पूछ लेना, ठीक है। हाय एवरीवन, हेलो जी, हेलो। चलिए ठीक है, कंटिन्यू करते हैं। अभी कोई क्वेरी
हाँ
तो नहीं है आप लोग की? जो क्वेरी होगी ना वो आप मेंशन कर दीजिएगा जैसे ही वो एंड होगा। मतलब ये स्टॉप होगी वीडियो, उसके बाद हम आपको आंसर कर देंगे, ठीक है।
राइट, ये स्टॉप होने के बाद मैं फिर से एक बार क्वेरीज देख लूंगी।
Names in patterns is the dead cat bounce. And traders love dead cat bounces. It's a continuation pattern, so it's going to continue whichever way that trend has been headed before. And they love it, not just because the name's kind of funny, but it's actually a very good trading indicator, as we'll see here coming up. And they're very rare, actually. When you see a dead cat bounce, sometimes you'll see forums or people, who are talking about trading say, "Oh my gosh, it's a dead cat bounce," and or it seems like it's forming. Watch out, it looks like a dead cat bounce. So you'll see some of that out there. But because it's rare, but the reason that traders love it or like it is that it's very consistent. It's one of the more proven patterns out there. It's a very consistent pattern. And it includes a gap as part of the overall pattern. There's a gap in prices, as you'll see when we walk through how this works. And a gap by its nature is a very strong indicator as well. So you have an indicator that as part of the indicator has a strong indicator built kind of right into it. So that helps to make it very, very consistent is the idea of a dead cat bounce. So let's look at a dead cat bounce and how that kind of works, because it's a chart pattern that'll take a little bit of time to form because certain conditions have to be met along the way. So what happens is you see this, we're going from left to right, of course, with our time farther back in time to the right, more recent times, and prices, high at the top, low to the bottom. So what we're seeing here, you can obviously see that there's a downtrend, right? Remember, whenever we're trading chart patterns, there has to be an established trend. So what we're seeing here, and this is a dead cat bounce, there's a downside breakaway gap. So you can see the three bars to the left, the three price ranges, and imagine before that there was an established trend too. And then all of a sudden there's a downside gap, right? There's a big gap in prices. The lows of the previous day were well broken and went to even lower lows, and we have a gap in prices there. Review or take a look at the lessons around gaps and trading gaps. We'll learn more about gaps, but the whole idea is there's something's happened. There's some type of big bad news or something happened to cause a big drop in prices. And then typically for a dead cat bounce, you want to see a dramatic drop. It's not a small 2, 3, 4% breakaway gap or big drop or drop. You were looking for something like 25% or even up to 70% drop. You're looking for some really bad things to happen. Your cat is dead, unfortunately. And so you have this big gap. So look for a big gap of like a 25 to 70% price drop. And then it basically, forms this, it goes in this now new, even steeper downtrend. And then it reaches a bottom of the downtrend and it hits the floor. Your dead cat hits the floor and it bounces. So you see there's another breakaway cap off the bottom where it bounces up, right? The prices have now made a leap up. And it doesn't have to be a dramatic leap up, just that there's a gap that's formed. The idea is that it's gone. You've had a downside gap. Things have gotten even worse. It keeps going down, down, down. It looks terrible. And then it bounces off the bottom. And then it starts going up. And so it's a short, the idea of the formation of the dead cat is it's a short-term thing. It doesn't reach the original price gap prices. It doesn't, see how it does, when it reaches its peak, it doesn't go above the prices or above where that original gap was back to the original, let's say 3 downward lines there on the far left. It's going to kind of start to approach that, but then it's going to turn around again. Again, a dead cat bounce is a continuation pattern. So it's going to resume that strong downtrend. But the idea is something's bad happened, drive it down, and people are looking at it as it hits the rock bottom and bounces. They're saying, this is way too low. Maybe this has been oversold. Let me buy in, and then that you get more buyers, and that has the bounce. That's your breakaway gap. That's the bounce. So the idea is you want to trade on the bounce, but be ready to get out, right? So you're seeing this happen. It bounces up. You see a breakaway gap. You need a breakaway gap going upwards, not just a trend going upwards. You need a breakaway gap going up to be a dead cat bounce. You trade on that, short-term trade, but you're ready to get out, especially as it starts approaching that first breakaway gap to the downside, or approaches the last kind of low in the previous downtrend low. You want to get out and take your profits, because what's going to happen with a dead cat bounce is it's going to reverse, or basically this temporary bounce, this temporary reversal is going to go back to the original downtrend. So be ready to get back out. You can have the exact opposite of that, and that's even rarer than a dead cat bounce, which is an inverted dead cat bounce. Just imagine this, but you're in an uptrend, and all the same concepts apply. It's just in an uptrend is what would be happening. Again, very, very rare, but if you see that, you can kind of trade appropriately around that. So the idea of the dead cat bounce is it's a short-term kind of profit opportunity, and that's why a lot of traders like it, besides the funny name, is they can get in and get some profits, but they're really watching it closely for any sign of a turn that might be turning back down to that downtrend, and then they get out right away. With a dead cat bounce, you want to trade on the bounce as it bounces off the floor. You don't want to go back into that downtrend, because the downtrend is going to keep getting worse. It's going to go past that floor and start creating new floors on this bad downtrend. So dead cat bounces are good trading opportunities, but just be aware of how to trade them. That's the real key part, is that you're trading the dead cat bounce. It's not something you would hold for long periods of time. You're just trying to trade on that bounce, get in, get out.
कोई क्वेरीज है आप लोगों की? कोई क्वेरीज है आपकी? मैं एक बार देखती हूँ. ओके, सो वी विल कंटिन्यू विद दिस, और कप एंड हैंडल के बारे में देखते हैं, फिर देखते हैं आगे क्या करना.
A very interesting chart pattern is what's called a cup with a handle. It actually looks like a cup with a handle on its side is the idea. And what makes it interesting is it's not only a chart pattern by nature, but it's combining these price patterns like you'd have in a chart pattern and trends and all that with things. Really, you have to have certain other factors or indicators that are part of that. Volume levels, how much trading and buying and selling is going on, as that cup forms, as we'll see here in a moment. And you're going to use an indicator, the moving average indicators as well too, to help kind of confirm all this as well. So they all kind of work together, and we'll walk through how all this works, including the moving average a little bit, so you can see how this all pulls together. And it is a continuation pattern. So the idea if the trend, and the idea of a cup and handle is the trend, let's say it's going upward, cup and handle will form, and the trend will continue is the idea. So it's a continuation pattern and takes time to develop. So this is one that does take time to develop, but when it does, and if it does, it's a very, very strong indicator when it does. We'll walk through why that is from kind of the psychology of what's going on with investors and traders that's forming this pattern. And as I mentioned before, it's fun because it looks like a cup. So if you can start visualizing a cup on its side, not the downward one, but on its side with your cup and your handle, then that's kind of cool, right? It kind of is an interesting thing. So let's take a look at a strong indicator, cup with handle. So if you look at this here, this chart pattern, let's start off, let's see if we can guess. Let's do a little more guessing game. So look at it and just start looking at it. You're looking for a cup. So in a cup, let's say you're looking at its side, you'd have a cup that would hold a liquid, right? So you're looking for an indentation in this chart pattern, these price lines that are going on this upward trend. Can you see the part where there's a depression where you could maybe put some water or some adult beverage if you like? And is there a handle that might be on the looking at our screen, the right-hand side of that cup, because they're going from left to right as far as time? So that's what kind of the pattern looks like. If I put a little bit of a highlight on there, you kind of see how it's starting to form like a teacup, right? Like it's starting to form a cup around there is the idea. So that's what you're looking for, is that cup with the handle. But to get there, well, there's a lot of things that got to happen. So let's put a whole bunch of stuff on the chart and let's walk through it. So first off, let's start at the very far left. we've got to have an upward trend, right? And as you can see here, the general direction, if we were to draw, more specific trend lines, but you can see that the slope is upward, the prices are getting higher. There's an upward trend. And then you can see that the bottom of the trading volume is kind of like this medium trading volume that you'd see looking over the history of the prices for your security, whatever trading volume it is. Some securities trade a lot all the time compared to others, but you're looking at this particular securities, horizontal or vertical bars at the bottom. And let's say this, blue part represents that range of volume, and it's kind of a medium volume, right? So it's on a nice upward trend, nothing exciting happening, but it's a nice, good upward trend. Maybe we bought in earlier and we're hanging in there. That would be terrific, right? That's maybe the idea. So we're seeing this happen, we're seeing this trend. And then it starts to reach a peak and starts to go downwards, and then it goes down in the cup part, and it starts to go sideways, right? So it doesn't go into full downtrend mode, it just starts to go sideways. The prices kind of bounce up and down a little bit in more of a flat part, forming in fact the bottom of the cup. And you'll see the trading volume is low on this. So you can see how they're all working together here, that the trading volume is low. And then as we go back up, you'll start to go back up, and then a handle forms. And that's when the handle forms, and certainly when there's the continuation pattern of the upward trend, we're back to this rising pattern, back to this upward trend. But one key part of that is that the trading volume is higher, right? So all of a sudden, a lot of people are trading it, and they're driving the prices higher. And then all along this, you're looking at this, you want to overlay on this is the simple moving average, or you can use a different type of moving average, like a weighted moving average. Look at the section around moving averages and learn more about moving averages. But basically, like let's say a simple moving average is looking over, let's say, the last 10 days or 10 periods, typically days, and saying what's the average prices. And really where that line comes in there is to form the bottom of the cup. We don't want those to go either too far, but we would rather they didn't break the simple moving average at all. But if they, or only just go a little bit below, just a little titch. We don't want it to go way below the simple moving average, because then we don't have a cup. We have more of a downtrend, or we have more of a V-shaped cup, which is what we don't want. We want more of a U-shaped type cup like we see here. So you're using that simple moving average to kind of help confirm and be a basis on that. And you can see how it follows along with the trend lines above it as far as that simple moving average. So what's happening here? So this is what it is, and you can trade off that, right? You could have either invested in the upward trend and then see the cup form, and you're hoping the cup forms, you hang in there, and then once you see the handle, you really hang in there because now you're going to be in an upward trend. Or maybe you're not in this security at all, and you see this cup forming, and then you see the handle, and you start seeing that sideways move in the handle, then you're starting to trade in there because you know an uptrend is coming, or you're hoping an uptrend is coming, and because it's a continuation pattern. And so you're buying in at that point as well. So you either had bought in earlier and you're holding through the cup and handle phase, or you see the cup and handle forming, and now you're buying somewhere in that handle, or most likely you're buying, actually probably a better thing is you're buying a little bit slightly up in the cup, or excuse me, a little bit slightly after the handle, because you want to have that uptrend definitely form. But if you think about the psychology of what's happening here, is that we've had this nice uptrend and it's been going up. Well, we're going to start back on the left here looking at the volume and stuff. A nice uptrend, steady uptrend, buyers are buying, and it's just kind of a steady uptrend. And then it loses steam, right? That's what happens to chart patterns. They lose steam, and it's either it's going to continue later, but it starts to go reverse the other way. And then so the prices go down when people are taking profits, and maybe that's what's happening. Prices are going down, but there's a low trading volume. It's not like there's a lot of excitement. It's not like there's something bad that's happened and the trading volume's high, driving the prices way down. It's just kind of like, it's just kind of really getting low volume, kind of boring, just kind of moving along. Moves along the bottom of that simple moving average. The cup is in fact above the simple moving average line, but this cup is forming. But again, it's nothing like exciting going on from volume. Then the volume starts to pick up, and people are like, oh, okay, well, maybe it's picking up again. And then what happens is those who didn't sell, towards the bottom of the cup might be selling now at the top of the cup or along the handle, right? They can't decide which way to go. The buy, sell, there's a little bit of movement, but now there's more trading volume coming in. And so that's starting to move that handle a little bit. It might actually, start ticking up a little bit just itself. It doesn't have to be a fully horizontal handle, but it's going to be, and it usually isn't, in real world. But what's going to happen is you're going to start to have this high volume, and you're going to have this upward trend. So that's kind of what, and then people are like, oh, this was just a temporary setback, that cup part, maybe a pullback. If I held on, I'm just going to hold on and really now ride this upward trend. And other people are like, all right, they had this temporary pullback, handle formed, indecisiveness at the handle, definitely went into uptrend, and now I'm back in buying because I know that uptrend is going to keep rising above there. So that's kind of the psychology behind a cup and handle. Also, one thing to consider too is the longer the U shape of the cup, the more it's more predictable than a V-shaped cup. So if you see that that we have this long U there from in the example that we're showing here with this cup, it looks like a U, but it's really kind of flatter and longer than if it was a real sharp V type of a cup. Also, the cup shouldn't be overly deep. The idea is you've had some indecision, you have some profit taking, but it shouldn't be driven way down low. It shouldn't certainly not be driven below the simple moving average line. That's what helps us with our cup. So it should not be overly deep. If it was really a deep cup, then it might be people are not as indecisive or taking profits. They might be an actual real trend reversal, and it's not really a cup and handle. It's actually something different going on. So look for U-shapes, longer U-shapes on the cups to be more confirming, and then also look that the cup is not overly deep on it, and that'll really help you well. So as you probably saw there, you're saying, wow, that's a lot going on with a cup and handle. It looks nice, but I got to really wait for that pattern to develop. And that's true, and you have to let it develop. But as you can see, there's strong indicators and multiple indicators on top of indicators, so that builds a great trading opportunity. So it might not be something you're trading every day, but if it kind of jumps out at you and slaps you in the face, like you might want to take notice of it because could be a great trading opportunity and to ride a long-term upward trend after a pause. All right, let's get a little alphabetical, right? So one of the more popular, or common, I should say, and popular trade on patterns is a double bottom chart pattern. And they're more common than a lot of other types of chart patterns, and double bottoms and double tops. But let's talk about double bottom chart pattern. Basically, it's going to look like the letter W, right? And what's happening is you have a downward trend, and it's retesting of these lows at the bottom of the W. And the idea is it's going to predict a price breakout. It's going to break out of that trend or reverse out of the downward trend and going to break out to the upside. That's the idea. Is under certain conditions, we're now going to break out to the upside. So let's look at that and how those form and how we can trade off of those. So if we look at this example, this is, all the prices high to low, made into a line chart here. And it looks like a W. Do you see the W there over on the left there? And the idea is that it's retesting of the lows is the idea. So, and they will predict the price breakout to the upside under certain conditions, as we mentioned. So, look, if you see the double on the left, if not, here you go. You can kind of see how the W is forming. So you can see the prices were higher, they go down, then they bounce up, and they go down and they bounce up again. So that's the idea of the W part of it. Now let's talk about how do we trade this. I mean, so we see a W, that's nice, but how does this really work, right? So if you see, we're starting with a downward trend. So over a double bottom, it's a downward trend and it's going to reverse is the idea. So you're going to hit bottom basically twice. Think of like those would be, we could have drawn a support line along the bottom, but you can see where the prices hit the first bottom and then they back up into the middle of the W and they reach a peak and then they go back down to the bottom, forming, the next side of the W. And then after that, they go back up. So that's our double bottom, right? Once we've hit the bottom twice, we've now formed our double bottom. And what we're looking for is now it's going to hit that confirmation point. You could also call that a resistance line. If this was a rectangle, it would bounce off that resistance point and keep going back down and kind of trade with a narrow channel. But when we have a double bottom, it's actually going to break through that point right there after the second bottom. And that's your confirmation point. Once it's broken through there, a new trend is forming, and you use your upward trend type analysis, in a second touch, or that you now have when we look at drawing trend lines. But the idea is that's your confirmation point that is broken through that top of the middle part of the W. You can see where I drew this line straight across, and then you're buying there after it's gone up above it a little bit, maybe over a period or two or three, and you're now going to ride this uptrend. And it's very common for a pullback to happen then. So we've been on this long downtrend, hit bottom twice, broke through at the top, and now it's reversed from a downtrend to an uptrend. But there's a little bit of pullback, a little bit of profit taking, not unusual, actually very common, and it'll actually maybe dip below that confirmation point. But the idea is hang in there because the idea is it's going to then continue with a double bottom. It's going is going to continue on that uptrend. It may just keep going on that uptrend, but having a pullback with profit taking is not unusual, and that's okay. Just be aware. So when we buy in there, we can then ride that uptrend up, and we can sell at the top there if we want to take a short-term profit. But the idea of a double bottom is we're maybe looking for that upward trend. So for a double bottom, there are some conditions to be met, some generally accepted conditions. And typically you're looking for a minimum of 10 days between the lows. Now it could be months, so this is a longer type of chart pattern. I suppose you could trade it over, shorter periods, but traditionally you're looking at days, so it's a day type trading over days. A minimum 10 days between the lows, so between those two bottoms. And it could be months if you're looking at longer patterns. And the variation between the lows is no more than 4%. They truly are within each other, very narrow, or very, like if you draw a line along the bottom there, they're very close to that support, it would be support line. So there isn't it actually looks like a W. It doesn't look like something, like a lightning bolt that keeps going downward. It looks like a W that's formed there. And then that center up move, is a minimum of 10% from the lower of the two bottoms, right? If it just goes up a couple of percent, you got this really funky looking W. That's not it, right? So it needs to move up 10% from the bottom and really form, it may not be a perfect W. Nothing's, it's not going to look visually perfect, but it's going to look very clearly like a W is the idea. And then the price must move above the confirmation line. That's the important part of a double bottom chart pattern. It's got to break through that confirmation point to show a true reversal. Even though there might be a pullback later, it's got to break through, significantly through that confirmation line. So, you're looking for that as well. So when you're looking to trade on a double bottom, you need to make sure that these conditions are met along the way. But it can be a very powerful.
Okay, guys, so we have come to an end to the double bottom chart, and now the pattern has completed. Last two was remaining, it's double top and head and shoulders. फिर मैं आपको बताऊंगी कि how you can deal with the trending lines, जो अगर आपको पता चलता है कि trend है तो कैसे आपको वो देख के डबल बॉटम्स या जो भी आपको दिखता है कि डबल टॉप दिखता है या जब कैंडलस्टिक पैटर्न्स की बारी आती है तो how you can do that. ठीक है, give me 1 minute. मैं आपकी कमेंट्स पढ़ लेती हूँ. कंपनी के फंड नहीं थे देने के लिए, इसलिए मैडम जी हम भी एक दो बार कब हार गए थे. ओके, आई थिंक इट्स रिलेटेड टू द थिंग. ओके ओके गाइस, सो फिर डबल बॉटम एक बार डबल टॉप देख लेते हैं और उसके बाद हेड एंड शोल्डर चार्ट पैटर्न देख के फिर हम एंड करते हैं ये वाला टॉपिक एंड देन फिर दूसरे टॉपिक पे जाते हैं. ओके
So if you took the letter W and you turned it upside down, you would have the letter M. And just like if you took a double bottom chart pattern and in effect turned it upside down, you would have a double top chart pattern. It would form the shape, instead of a W, it would form the shape of an M. And a double top chart pattern is a strong uptrend that's, because it's a reversal, these are all reversal patterns, is now going to reverse and become a downtrend. So it's a very much the mirror image of a double bottom. Just we're looking at double top. And if you were to look at this, then you can kind of guess what might be the M here and this chart here. You can, there's some yellow lines to kind of help you see the formation of that letter M, and we're going to trade around that letter M. So let's put some more stuff around this so we can see how we would trade that pattern. So with a double top, you can see we have a strong uptrend going up. There might have been a pause there like it's shown here. with some profit taking. But either way, there's a strong uptrend that's very much established. And then it peaks out, and the first of the two double tops, that the first one there, you reach a peak and it turns around and really starts to go significantly back down. And then once it goes back down, it reaches a point of the lowest price there that then turns back around and goes back up to a top, forming a double top as it turns back around again, forming the letter M. So what we're looking for is we're looking for an uptrend. We're looking for, to really stop at a top there, or a resistance line would be drawn, and then it's going to kind of come back down to form that letter M. And now our confirmation point is at the bottom of the, of the letter M, or in the middle part of the M at that low price there. And that's where if we had bought in before, we would be selling there. We would have confirmation that this is definitely a chart pattern that's a double top, and the double top is a reversal pattern. So maybe we had sold a little bit before, maybe taking our own profits, but if we want to hang in there, and once we see the double top form, then we definitely, and we break that confirmation point, you definitely want to sell at that point. Because now we're going not from an uptrend, we're going into a strong downtrend. There may be some retracement or some, go back up the opposite way, where people are looking to, buy in. They might have thought, oh, it went down too far, we're going to buy back in and drive that up a little bit back up above the confirmation point. And what that does is it shakes out kind of the last hold-ons who see it, okay, it's gone back up a little bit, it's gone above that confirmation point. I'm just going to take my profit now because I just want to get out, because I know a double top is formed and I want to get out. So if I didn't get out before at the confirmation point, now is a good time to get out. And there's no guarantee there's going to be a retracement either. It could have just kept going down from here. But that's not unusual to see either. So the key on this is that you've taken a strong uptrend. It's tried to go higher twice, didn't make it, went back down through the confirmation point of that middle part of the letter M, and then now it's done a full reversal and continues on down. And so you want to have sold around that confirmation point. Same thing as far as some conditions to be met. Again, mirror image of the double bottoms, but now it's the double tops. Like a 10 days between the lows. It could be months, but it could be, you're looking for at least 10 days between them. And the variation between the highs now is the no more than 4%. Again, it's not looking like something that's kind of the staggering steps upward or something like that. You're definitely forming that M, and so you want those tops to be within 4% of each other. So it really starts to look like that letter M. And the center move down, in this case, the center down move would be a minimum of 10% from the higher of the two tops. So think of whichever top was higher, you want, if they're not, they won't necessarily always be perfect, but they will be within 4% of each other. You want to be at least to have that middle part be 10% down. Then it's going to rebound back up to form the second top and then come back down. And then the price must move below the confirmation line to be a true double top chart pattern. So that confirmation line, and if you haven't sold and taken profits before that, you might not have, and that's okay. You want to really make sure if you're trading off this pattern, that the pattern fully develops. But once you see that confirmation part and breaks through, that's the time to sell at that point if you had bought into it and rode a nice uptrend yet and take your profits there. If it goes back and it goes above that confirmation line a little bit, then that might give you a second chance. But if it's a true double top chart pattern, it's a reversal pattern, and now the prices are reversing from upward trending to downward trending, and a very definite sell signal once you break that confirmation. So if you like the idea of trading double tops, wouldn't a triple top be better? In many ways it is. So there is the thing called a triple top. In fact, it actually has its own name, which is a chart pattern is called head and shoulders, because it looks like a person's head with their shoulders. It is what the pattern will look like. So it gets its own special name other than just triple top. It's a head and shoulders. And you'll see these support and resistance breaks here as far as with head and shoulders and how that forms. And you'll see the trends as far as how those develop. And again, head and shoulders is part of the reversal family of chart patterns. So instead of a continuation of the trend, you're looking for the trend to reverse and go in the opposite direction that it originally was headed before it headed into this head and shoulder patterns. So if we look at this pattern here of our prices, and do you see a head and shoulders? That's a little trick here, but do you think of the top part maybe as the head, where you might put a face, and then do you see a head and shoulders? In fact, let's put a face there. There we are. We're happy. There's our head, and then you can see the pointy tops. Those are the shoulders, right? So that's the head and the shoulders. So Numbers 1 and 3 there are the shoulders, and number 2 is the head. And you basically got 3 tops rather than a double top, right? 1, 2, 3. They're not all equally. You know how the double tops, they had to be within 4% of each other? So 1 and 3 would be within 4% of each other, but you have this kind of middle one that forms an even peakier or head on the triple top. That's why it's a head and shoulders. And it's rarer than double tops too, by the way. So this is why when you see head and shoulder, it's a strong indicator because it's a very rare type indicator. And you can see we're in an uptrend coming into the head and shoulders, by the way. So you'd have a strong uptrend moving into it, and then it forms this, movement. It's a head and shoulder pattern. So how do we look at this? How do we trade on this? So if you look at it, you can see we've got the uptrend, and the confirmation line is in the head and shoulders is called a neckline because, again, we're talking about body parts. So it's called a neckline. It also, in effect, is a support line, right? Our prices are going to bounce off it for a little bit before they break through. When the neckline is broken, that's when the pattern is completed. And you can see what's happening here is we have our uptrend, and we don't have a confirmation line yet, by the way, because we're just in this uptrend, but we reach this first part of the shoulder. In fact, that first shoulder on the left-hand side, if you're facing the person, you don't even know it's a shoulder yet because the pattern hasn't fully developed, right? But you do know it's going down from that peak down a little bit. So it's gone down. A new trend hasn't formed, but it's definitely some temporary downward price movement. But then it bounces back up and goes past that first shoulder and goes right up. Again, it's to what's later going to become the head. We don't know it's a head at this point either because we might think, oh, it's just a continuation of the upward trend. We had a little pullback, now we're going back up, and maybe we'll keep going upwards. We don't know it's a head yet. But now it's reversed back down in forming this pattern, and it's come down and gotten within 4% of that neckline. So now we're looking at, and we might say, oh, we might have a double bottom here, right? Because it's approached and hit that support line twice. But it's a little bit odder because we have that peakiness. A double top, or excuse me, a double bottom, wouldn't be as peaky well, it would form a W, but you could say a double bottom is forming actually. But it doesn't go back up, it goes up to the shoulder part, and that's where you've got kind of this triple top part, right? It's looking at it, and you can see the head, you can see the two shoulders, and when it makes that turn at that second shoulder, now you can actually see the pattern, and that's where you're really watching that support line, that confirmation line, and you're watching for it to break through that pattern. That would be the pattern is completed. And so that's what completes the pattern. So to be really ready to sell in this case, because it's an upward trend, you bought, let's say, earlier in the trend, and now you want to sell and book the profits that you had earlier in the trend before it breaks through that confirmation line and goes back into a true downward trend and maybe starts eating away at all your profits. So that's when it's kind of fully formed on that, is the idea of a head and shoulder. It looks like a head and shoulders. You could do the opposite of that, which is called inverse head and shoulder. Maybe the person's like doing a handstand. But you can see on the far left, we're in a definite downtrend, and we can see how the shoulders and the head do the same thing where they form, but it's now the opposite way. So you have to kind of use your imagination to see that head, the peak there of the head and the two shoulders. And the idea of this pattern is this is a great buying opportunity because the neckline, which is your resistance line, has been broken, right? It's tried to break through at the shoulders before. It didn't. In fact, in the middle, it had a big, deep drop. So this maybe was showing a pretty strong downtrend, but those shoulders kept touching those peaks. And when it tries again for that third time, see, once it approaches the third time to that neckline or that confirmation line or that resistance line, that's basically your triple part of this inverse head and shoulder. Same thing with the head and shoulder. That's your triple part of it as well. And this time it's going to break through. And once we see that breakthrough, we're like, this is a true inverse head and shoulder, a rare pattern, but it happens. And once it breaks through, now we know we should maybe look at that if an uptrend is fully forming, then we get in and we can now ride that uptrend going up. That's the idea of inverse head and shoulder. So you're trading the head and shoulder or inverse head and shoulder, depending on which way the reversal is going to happen.
Okay, so guys, I think now it's already a like big time. We can start with other things क्योंकि अभी काफी मैंने आपको lectures बता दिए हैं. किसी की कोई doubt है तो पूछ लीजिए मुझसे. Any questions? Thank you. Abhidun sir, thank you so much for your deposit. This is the second last live session. Thank you so much guys for everyone who have deposited and who are interested in knowing this lecture. तो मैं बहुत खुश हूँ. आपकी कोई क्वेश्चंस है तो प्लीज आप मुझसे कंटिन्यूअली पूछ लीजिए. एनी क्वेश्चंस, एनी डाउट इफ यू हैव, प्लीज लेट आस्क मी क्लियरली. ओके, कोई क्वेश्चंस है आपके? जी मैम, कोई क्वेश्चन है आ रहे हैं क्या?
Come again?
कोई क्वेश्चन है क्या?
Wait. नीचे आई थिंक रीडिंग ही था, बाकी लेट मी चेक ऑन स्नो.
ठीक है, तो गाइस हमने सारे ट्रेंड्स कवर कर लिए हैं. अभी हम फाइनली इस पे जाते हैं कि हाउ यू कैन क्रिएट अ ट्रेडिंग स्ट्रैटेजी. आप लोग मुझसे पूछते हैं कि मैम ट्रेडिंग कैसे करें, तो यहाँ पे मैं लिखती हूँ हाउ टू क्रिएट अ trading strategy as a beginner. Okay, ठीक है. या थैंक यू सर, आपने जो डिपॉजिट किया उसके लिए. आप जितने लोगों को डिपॉजिट करना है प्लीज डिपॉजिट करें. बैनर शेयर कर दिया, उस पर क्लिक करके आप करें. So I will be sharing you the details. To create a trading strategy as a beginner, you must define a specific asset class. Establish clear entry and exit rules. Entry and exit कहाँ पे करना है? You should know that. Set strict risk management boundaries. A trading strategy removes emotion by turning a decision into a repetitive rule routine. Select one assets at one time. For example, focus entirely on liquid asset. Liquid asset means those who actually give you a security. BTC or UR to learn its daily price habits. Pick a higher time frame. Use 1 hour or 4 hour rule charts. Like 1 घंटे या 4 घंटे में आप जो है वो ट्रेड्स को देखे, चार्ट्स को देखे. To plan trades as low time frame or like 1 minute chart contain too random market noise. 1 मिनट में कभी डिसाइड मत कीजिए कि अभी मुझे इसको सेल करना है या परचेज करना है, बिकॉज आपको 1 मिनट टाइम फ्रेम में कुछ भी समझ में नहीं आएगा. ठीक है. Establish a simple entry signal. Identify the overall market direction by adding a $50 potential moving average that is called the exponential moving average, EMA. It is called exponential moving average. So by rules, look to buy rules. Like हमेशा ध्यान में रखिए कि you have to look to take buy long position when the price is constantly trading above the 50 EMA line. ठीक है, हमेशा ध्यान में रखिए कि आपको जो है वो आपकी प्राइस को बढ़ा हुआ देखना है. उसके लिए आपको क्या करना पड़ेगा? आपको लॉन्ग पोजीशंस को बाय करना होता है ताकि प्राइस आपका कंसिस्टेंटली ट्रेडिंग अबव 50 EMA लाइन के ऊपर ही रहे. ठीक है. फिर लुक टू टेक सेल शॉर्ट पोजीशंस ओनली व्हेन द प्राइस consistently trading below the 50 EMA line. लॉन्ग बाय करें, शॉर्ट पे सेल करें, क्योंकि प्राइस जो है वो आपके 50 EMA लाइन के नीचे होना चाहिए. जब बाय करेंगे तो 50 EMA लाइन के ऊपर होना चाहिए. डिफाइन प्रिसाइज एग्जिट रूल्स, रिस्क वर्सेस रिवॉर्ड. प्री सेट द स्टॉप लॉस. हमेशा स्टॉप लॉस को पहले ही लगा के रखे. प्लेस योर स्टॉप लॉस जस्ट बिलो द recent swing low for a buy or sell. For example, for above the recent swing high for sell. अगर फॉर एग्जाम्पल देखिए कि अगर आपको बाय करना है तो हमेशा जो है वो आपका स्टॉप लॉस ऊपर होना चाहिए, और जो आपका रीसेंट स्विंग है हाई और सेल तो उसके हिसाब से आपको सेल या बाय करना चाहिए. Set a 1 to risk reward ratio. Always place your take profit target twice as far from an entry point as your stop loss. Always place your take profit target twice as far as your entry point as your stop loss. Stop loss से 2% आगे ही आपको जो है वो टेक प्रॉफिट करना होना चाहिए. फॉर एग्जाम्पल अगर आपका स्टॉप लॉस है 200 पे, तो हमेशा उससे 2% आगे ही या ट्वाइस लाइक 400 पे तो आपको प्रॉफिट मिलने चाहिए. जैसे मैंने आपको कहा था कि 2% या 3% हमेशा आपकी एंट्री अमाउंट को जो आपने इन्वेस्ट किया उसके आगे ही होना चाहिए. अभी इसमें एग्जाम्पल दिया. If your stop loss is $10 away from your entry price, take your profit target must be $20 away. तो $20 से अवे होना चाहिए. अगर आपका जो स्टॉप लॉस है 10 पे है तो एटलीस्ट आपको 2% तो मिल जाएगा, राइट? Apply the first risk rule. Always apply the first risk rule. Adjust your lot size. हमेशा जितने भी लॉट आप खरीदते हो उसके हिसाब से आपको पैसे इन्वेस्ट करने पड़ते हैं. तो always adjust your lot size so that if the market hits your stop loss, you lose no more than 1% on your total account balance. Capital protection. If you have $500 account, a single losing trade should never cost you more than $5. Okay? If you have a $500 account, what you have $500 account, a single losing trade should never cost you more than $5. A single losing trade should never cost you more than $5. Okay. Execute at least 30 trades using this exact strategy on your BtcDana demo account before risking the real money. Always use or always do trade with the demo accounts without risking your real money, and always keep a journal. Journal means it have to record the date, you have to record the time, you have to record the entry price, exit price, and emotional reason behind every single trade that you can make. So always make sure that you record that. Okay. Rest everything is clear, guys. Yeah. So मैं अभी यहाँ पे शेयर करती हूँ आपको कि सिलेक्टिव आपको कौन सी ट्रेडिंग करनी चाहिए. तो इसमें 3 मिनट की चीज़ें हैं. तो मैं आपको पहले होती सिलेक्टिव ट्रेडिंग टाइमिंग क्या होती है वो देखते हैं.
Another way you can impact the overall effectiveness of your trading and profitability, which is what we're really looking at here, is building on this concept of indicators and primary and secondary indicators. And that's what selective trading timing is a great concept you can use with that. So let's think of it as selective trading timing we're going to learn about and then combining with these confirmations. So maybe you like the idea, I hope you do, of having a primary and a secondary. That's a real core concept of technical analysis. And maybe you might add a third or maybe in a fourth and maybe a fifth. It's up to you as you develop your skills. But let's start with a primary and a secondary. And then you can add to the trade as indicators are met. So maybe you want a primary, a secondary, you're good with a third, but then you maybe add a little bit more with your fourth and fifth indicators come in. So if you want to approach it that way, that can be a great approach too and use more indicators. So how does it work? So let's say you take a certain amount that you've designated for a trade, for a particular individual trade of an individual security, you're going to commit a certain amount of money. Let's pretend and say is $500. Students from all over the world, over 200 countries, so please just submit in that idea of rupees or euros or pounds or whatever yen, whatever you use. But let's say, for example, I have 500 units or $500. So maybe what I do is I break that up. Instead of putting it all in, I break it up depending on when these different indicators are met. So let's say if indicator 1 and 2 are met, my primary, my secondary, my most confident things, I put in $200. And then if I see, or either right away or when, if it progresses, a third indicator is met, a third different indicator is met, well, then I'll put in another $100 and another 100 for number 4 and another 100 for number 5. And the idea is that that you're kind of, instead of putting it all in right away, you're kind of building in as indicators are met. And you can change these amounts. Let's say you really only want to use 3 indicators or 4 indicators. Well, you could use $300 for 1 and 2, and then $100 for 3 and 4, and that gets you to your $500. Again, the amounts you use is completely up to you, of course. Just the concept of breaking it up and putting a little bit more on your primary and secondary, and then your third and fourth, so you put a little bit less, and you kind of work your way into those. And now when you get an indication that things are changing, like the trend is ending, and you maybe you put in, you might not have been putting in all your fourth and fifth, maybe you never were met. Maybe you've got only $300 in at this case. Either way, whether you have only, your smallest amount to fully end, once you see that there's a change or the trend is ending, you exit all at once. So you don't exit like in kind of reverse order or anything like that, or slowly exit. once you see a definite sell signal, you want to get out and you want to exit and book your profits. Otherwise you'll just as you built up your profits going up, you don't want to erode your profits going down. You want to build them up slowly and then protect them and then get out and do another trade. As far as doing it all over again is the idea. So that's the idea of how that selected trading timing works. Is I'm using these indicators, but I'm using the indicators as far as when certain milestones are met with this particular security that I'm trading. So it's a great way to kind of add a little bit more safety without having to go all in on and trying to feel like you have to really know that fifth indicator well. You could put a little less risk on, let's say, that last fourth or fifth indicator. Another way you can manage your trading is what's called using setup trading or setup trades. You're basically looking for a certain setup and you're striking and you're acting fast, you're acting quickly once you see a certain indicator setup happening is the idea behind it. And setup trading, as we'll learn the mechanics of it here, but just understand that setup trading is real popular with like day and swing traders, people who trade very quickly. Certainly folks that might be called arbitrage or scalping, where they're making quick moves in and out. Real popular with that. It's also very popular with very, very volatile securities. Things like penny stocks, these low-priced, not well-known companies that, that might be trading for, 50 cents and it goes up a little bit. All of a sudden, it's a big move, right? So very volatile securities like penny stocks and altcoins or alternate coins in the cryptocurrency world, for example. Less so, it can be, but less so with like, let's say Bitcoin, very established, but more of a newer, let's say, alternate coin. And so the idea behind why it's popular with these types of folks who trade these types of securities or this types of methods is the frequently buying and selling aspect of a setup trade. You're frequently buying and selling. So if you think about that, you can probably already get an idea that you might need to be comfortable with risk and uncertainty. But if you follow a plan, you're taking a lot of the risk out. And as you learn and develop your plan, your ideas around setup trading, you're actually going to pull risk out. But it is something that is a little bit more for the if you're the individual who loves to trade and go fast and get lots of little profits all along the way and build that up to big profits, well, this lesson might be for you, right? This might sound very interesting. So let's look up setup trading in a little bit more detail now. So how it works, kind of, you identify a specific, price bar common configuration. You're looking for something you see. Once this happens, then that's an indicator for me, and I'm going to take action. Let's say off of candlesticks, for example. You might be looking at a good candlestick combination within short time frames, maybe minutes, maybe hours, but probably even short, like more like minutes. And you're looking for that certain setup, that certain situation. And you can still have a confirming indicator, possibly as for something else confirming it, RSI, whatever it might be, something else confirming it. Fibonacci might be a good one, to help, in this case, to help confirm. And you're looking for that setup. And once you see that setup, and the whole idea is you want to see the setup, and the sooner you can see the setup and become an expert in your primary, you're going to be an expert in that. Once you're an expert in your setup and you see it happen, boom, then you take action. And let's say you buy it, you buy it then. And then once things change quickly, you sell it fast too. And this is all happening within minutes or certainly by the end of the day is the idea. That's why, of course, it's popular with people who trade frequently, like scalpers, arbitrage, or certainly day traders that will close all their positions. Classically, day trader close all their positions by the end of the day. So you're looking for the pattern and you're getting in fast, and then you'll actually get out fast. So if we look a little closer at that, let's say, for example, you've identified a candlestick setup, whatever you decide. Look at the lessons around candlesticks, for example, and you say you're really looking for certain setups. And then what happens is other people will see these setups too, right? You're not the only trader out there who knows how to trade. You're better because you took the course, but you're not the only one out there, and that's a good thing. Because what will happen is once the setup happens, once the pattern happens, let's say with these candlesticks, there'll be a big move in the first few minutes, right? People are buying in. They see it happen, and they're acting, and they're buying in early. And then what happens, or we hope to happen, not everything's perfect, of course, but it's followed by additional move in the same direction, at least a short-term trend there that will be occurring. And others are coming in, and that keeps the demand keeps rising, right? Because they're starting to see the pattern too, but they might not see it as fast as you because that's not their expertise, or they haven't moved as quick as you. So you're moving fast, you see the setup fast, you move fast, the price keeps rising even though you bought in early, so you're seeing your profit now rise because others are following in. And instead of waiting for other types of signals or waiting for other things to happen, you're selling fast, right? You're getting in early and you're getting out early. That's the key. You're in early and you're out early. And you do that over and over again to basically, build a profitable strategy around this. Again, you got to like that fast trading, maybe a little bit risk. Sometimes it doesn't go the direction you hoped it would or thought it would, but the idea is it should because you're seeing the setup. And your indicator is going to work for you more times than not, for sure. So getting in early. So the whole key, identify setup fast, buy early, wait for others to join, drive the price up, get out early. Do it over and over. Now, one thing you want to do along that too is you want to have these predetermined trading rules, because you don't want to do a lot of thinking. You want to do a lot of fast acting, right? So you want to ahead of time establish, whatever rules you might have around that. Some classic ways you can look at is you would buy, let's say, once established price range, in the first X minutes of trading, right? So you're looking at a price range and you're seeing it in that price range, let's say in this case, $100 to $105. So there's an established price range happening, and you get in when you're above that range at a predetermined target. So let's say you don't do any trading for the first, let's say, hour of the day. It was a classic way to do it. You see the security is trading between 100 and 105. You're looking at a target that once it hits 107, or there might be a certain, let's say candlestick setup, that happens, then you buy. And then you sell right away as it goes up, right? You may not get a sell signal at all. This might be a sort of a longer trend. When you're doing this type of setup trading, you don't care. You're trying to get out and maximize the profit that way. And so you may not get a sell signal. And you may stay in it for a few minutes to a few hours, or maybe to the end of the day. And where you want to kind of set that up is with maybe you have a predetermined profit amount, right? So let's say I want to make 5% per trade or 10% or whatever the number is. You would then just figure out what your exit price is too, and then you might have some stop loss and things to protect your downside as well. But the whole idea is that you're seeing something that's got some momentum behind it. You're seeing the prices rise. You've gotten above the trading range. This is real small looks at individual candles. You're getting above the trading range. Let's say in this example to 107. You're buying. You're watching it go up a little bit further, a predetermined amount. You sell. You take your profit. You get up. So setup trading, not for everybody. And there are some definite downsides to setup trading too. So setups may not appear every day or every month as for some of the downsides. It's something you're watching for, that kind of more perfect setup. You might need to follow more securities as part of that too, because they don't appear as often. And you want to really kind of learn more setup conditions to recognize. The more you recognize, the more opportunities you'll have. So you need to become a little bit more of an expert in these setups, in these different types of setup conditions, setup situations, compared to more common primary indicators, that you could be waiting for, like moving average crossovers and things like that. You're looking for these price setups. And it does take a good amount of concentration during the trading day. It's a little harder for a part-time trader, because remember, you're really watching or moving quickly. You can do some automated things with the orders you place, of course, with like stop loss, targeting certain buy levels, so you can kind of automate that more. And when we get into the how to place your orders part, we'll actually talk about how to automate that more. But either way, it's still going to take a little bit more intense concentration in the trading day. Again, that's harder for a part-time trader, possibly, but for those who want to trade more frequently or in certain sessions, when they're in session, trading a session, they're going to really concentrate and do that, and they're going to enjoy it, and they love it. So one other aspect of that too is you'll never really maximize the profit on one trade, since you're getting out and in and out so fast. But you're protecting your downside too by getting in and out fast as well. And the whole goal of setup trading in this manner is that you're going to have these many small little profits add up to some big overall profits. That's the big idea behind it. So, setup trading, again, as you watch this lesson, some people are saying, that sounds like me, I want to do that. And other people are like, oh, that's not for me at all. Okay, that's fine. But now you at least understand how it works, and you can do that, but you absolutely don't have to do it That becomes a little more of trading style. And if you really want to do setup trading, like get real crazy with it, then you can do guerrilla trading, which is in the next lesson.
So it was all related to the trading
So if
strategy.
you thought setup trading was fun and exciting,
Any other questions? No question? Okay. Thank you, David, Arian sir. Thank you so much for your deposit. नहीं मैडम जी होगा तो ज़रूर बाय करेंगे हम BTC गुड डे ठीक है मैं आपको एक बार प्रिडिक्शन दे देती हूँ 2 मिनट हाय एम्पेरर सर गुड डे सो आई विल गिव यू द प्रिडिक्शन व्हाट इज द रियल थिंग कि अभी आपको क्या करना चाहिए ठीक है ये तो पहले का आए थे ओह आई थिंक चेंज हो गया है शायद ये इट इज अगेन ऑन 63,949,943 पे ही है तो वी विल सी कि क्या कर सकते हैं अभी के लिए इट्स बेटर कि ये थोड़ा सा ऊपर जाने के बाद थोड़ा नीचे आया है तो यू कैन प्लीज कंटिन्यू टू बाय इट आई डोंट नो इसका ये ऐसा क्यों हो गया है कैंडल्स करते हैं या सो आई थिंक यू कैन प्लीज कंटिन्यू टू बाय BTC आप BTC को बाय कर सकते हैं क्योंकि BTC हैज ऑलरेडी ऑन अपवर्ड साइड सो आई थिंक इन द फ्यूचर आई डोंट नो कि ये नीचे क्यों नहीं हो रहा है या इट वाज वेरी zoomed या तो ये जो है ये थोड़ा सा बाय कर चुका है सो माय पॉइंट इज फॉर यू इज यू कैन प्लीज बाय दिस BTC क्योंकि यहाँ पे नीचे नीचे आके ये स्विंग होके ऊपर गया है तो यू कैन बाय द बिटकॉइन एंड यू कैन प्लीज होल्ड इट नेक्स्ट फॉर द नेक्स्ट कंफर्मेशन तब तक आप इसे बाय कर लीजिए ओके BS राजपूत सर प्लीज बाय BTC ओके बाय BTC ठीक है एंड लास्ट हमारा जो है वो है हमारा इथेरियम का प्रोडिक्शन ओके इथेरियम का प्रोडिक्शन है I think Ethereum is also on the same page, so you can buy Ethereum also. Always remember that when Bitcoin increases, it has the chances that Ethereum will also increases similar to it because it has a similar effect. Always मैंने आपको बताया है कि Ethereum और Bitcoin दोनों ही साथ में एक ही जैसा ट्रेंड दिखाते हैं हमेशा क्योंकि दे आर वेरी सिमिलर एंड अलाइक टू ईच अदर तो हमेशा देखिए कि अभी ये देखिए सेम पैटर्न आपको इथेरियम में भी देखने मिल रहा है सेम पैटर्न आपने बिटकॉइन में भी देखा है सो व्हेन यू सी द सेम पैटर्न हैपनिंग ऑन बोथ ऑफ द क्रिप्टो करेंसी always have a similar decision for it if you have planning to buy bitcoin then always plan to buy ethereum also if you are planning to sell bitcoin then always plan for selling the ethereum also good morning PDE sir good morning welcome to our session thank you so much for joining okay so next would be, I think this is done, or you want Solana also? Solana, I think no one actually asked me these questions about Solana because I think many people have already reduced investing on this cryptocurrency. So they are not interested in like selling or buying this currency. It was actually very devalued now क्योंकि बहुत ज़्यादा इसमें variations you can see that it's continue to fall rather than increase and the upward trend is also very low the ratio is very low the trend bar actually signifies that it's keep on falling shortly every time so I don't think so that it is a better investment option right now for you because 2026 have are like half done and I think you please aim guys when you are a trader as a beginner always aim for Bitcoin and Ethereum that's going to be your one first strategy okay after that when you get the leverage then also target the US dollar and then also target the what we can say always target the gold okay Thank you, Abhi Patel, for your deposit. We are having a lot of deposit today. Thank you guys for your deposit. वैसे भी सेकेंड लास्ट सेशन है. जितना डिपॉजिट करना है कर लीजिए मेरे अकाउंट से, मेरे बैनर से. आप क्लिक करके अकाउंट ओपन कर लीजिए मेरे जाने से पहले. That would be helpful for you. ठीक है? Thank you. Thank you everyone. Thank you so much. आज बोलना ही नहीं पड़ रहा, आप लोग अच्छे से डिपॉजिट कर रहे हैं. आज डिपॉजिट बैनर पे क्लिक भी कर रहे हैं, फटाफट से डिपॉजिट कर रहे हैं. थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू सो मच. कल लास्ट सेशन है गाइस 2 to 5, सॉरी 2 to 5 नहीं, मैं टाइम चेंज कर रही हूँ, 1 to 4 कर रही हूँ. तो कल 1 to 4 सेशन रहेगा. ओके, एनी अदर क्वेश्चंस, एनी अदर क्वेरीज? नो, ठीक है. सो वी विल बी कंटिन्यू विद दिस. फिर उसके बाद आई विल प्ले सॉन्ग्स. ओके, एक सॉन्ग्स लगा दूंगी. लास्ट देख लीजिए कि गोरिल्ला सेटअप ट्रेडिंग क्या होती है. गोरिल्ला सेटअप ट्रेडिंग क्या होती है. गोरिल्ला भी इज अ स्ट्रैटेजी, आप यूज कर सकते हैं इस स्ट्रैटेजी को फॉर योर ट्रेडिंग पार्ट. सो इट्स कॉल्ड गोरिल्ला सेटअप ट्रेडिंग स्ट्रैटेजी. तो हम ये देखते हैं.
Then you might really love guerrilla setup trading, or it's commonly known as guerrilla setup trading. There's other names too. So think of guerrilla setup trading as more intense setup trading, guerrilla trading more intense, if you can be that way. Looking at very, very short trades, term trades, you're buying and selling in minutes, for sure. Buying and selling in minutes, and you're targeting only a little profit per trade. You're doing that over and over again. And so you do a lot of trading over the course of a session, right? You're minutes, right? And you don't care about trends and other indicators, which, makes me sad a little bit. But hey, we're not here to just love indicators. They're perfect, great things, but you can use this type of trading to make profits as well too. And that's ultimately what we're here for, is to make some profits on our trading. So how does guerrilla trading work? So first off, how it works is you kind of follow a news announcement that people are going to react to, right? You kind of anticipate things coming, like government policy announcements, something around, if you're in the cryptocurrency world, there might be something about legalization or more regulation around cryptocurrencies or currency trading like Forex. Whatever it is, whatever type of security you're trading, you're looking for news around that, particularly if there's news that you know is coming. That's really what you're looking for, is you're really looking at the calendar and you're watching for news to come. And you might see some rumors coming and you're watching for that news to come. Once the news comes, now you watch what the market response is. And your only indicator is price. How is the market responding? The news comes out, and if the news seems favorable, people are going to start buying, right? So they're going to buy. So if with that, you want to immediately pounce, right? That's like a gorilla on a nice leafy branch or a banana, right? You're going to immediately pounce is the idea. You have to get in fast, and then you have to get out fast in a few minutes is the idea behind it. But the whole key on there is getting in fast, that immediate pounce part. Because if you come in too late, you've already missed a lot of that good initial price run up, and it might have a pullback later in the next minutes or later in the session. So the idea is you immediately pounce, and you get out in a few minutes. And sometimes you can do this multiple times on the same announcement as the market processes the news, right? So a great news comes out, the market reacts, the price goes up, you've pounced early, it's gone up a little bit, you set maybe a predetermined target of like 2% return or whatever your number is, you set a predetermined amount, and then you get out. And then the market processes it and might come back down a little bit, and then you pounce again. And you can keep doing that on the same announcement if you feel, and once you see these prices going back up again. So as far as trading goes, is less about indicators and more about behavior in that case. So if you like setup trading, you might love guerrilla trading. When you're trading securities, you want to have a plan, right? And part of your plan is having rules, having rules and guidelines around your plan. So let's talk about trading rules. So first off, well, what do we mean by trading rules? And really, a trading rule is the action you're going to take, buy or sell, for example, you take when certain conditions, and that's your indicators, are met. It's part of your overall trading plan. So these trading rules can be very simple or very complex. Like for example here, let's say we're going to buy when the price moves above the 20-day simple moving average line, right? It's an easy indicator to understand. It's a simple rule. You buy when this happens. Or it could be like sell half of my holdings when the price crosses below the 10-day simple moving average, and the other half when it crosses below the 20-day simple moving average. See how we've added some rules as far as how we'll adjust our behavior buying and selling, but it's a little bit more complex in bullet point 2 versus bullet point 1. And they can involve one indicator or a primary and second confirming indicator, which is good, or multiple indicators. The idea is you're building out your plan and building out rules that support your plan. And so when you think of that, you're looking at two really big things. You're looking at the indicators you'd use, your tools, but you're also looking at your risk profile, how much risk and how much profits you want to take or how much loss you want to avoid, right? And when you look at those together, your indicators and your risk profile, that's what's going to help you develop your trading rules around that. And again, you can paper trade this and back test it to help develop comfort levels around that too as well. Paper trading, of course, with fake money to basically practice. But the big idea here is I'm looking at my indicators and they're not in a vacuum. I'm also have to understand myself as a trader and in my own risk profile as far as how do I react when there's sometimes losses, for example. Now, when you're building these trading rules, sometimes you might be like, well, I just know my risk profile. If we're talking about risk profile here, for example, well, I know I'm a wild-eyed, crazy, I'll take any risk trader, or I might know I'm a little bit more cautious type of trader. So you might just know, and a better way to do is maybe you do like an online survey, right? You can just kind of do like, put in a search engine trading risk profile or whatever, and you usually come up with these online surveys, and you answer some questions, and multiple choice questions, and it'll spit back and say, you're this type of risk profile, and you can kind of interpret that and maybe confirm what you might feel in your gut that you just know. Another good way, and actually a better way, is actually when you get to that point is actually paper trade and start seeing what the losses would be like, but also what the gains would be like. How successful is your system, or how you put together your trading rules and your indicators, putting it all together, and that you're feeling comfortable doing all this. That's where paper trading is so important, to get comfortable before you actually do real live trading. And that's really the last step here, where you really determine your risk profiles when you're trading real money, your money. When you're trading real money, that's when you really get a feel for your risk profile. It's easier to be risky when it's not your money. It's just fake money. It's on a computer screen. It's another thing when it's your own real money. So as you build up these trading rules, again, you're looking at your indicators and your risk profile, and both of those will develop over time and with practice, and that's all okay. So let's talk more about how to create your own trading plan. Your overall plan, that's your strategy. That's going to be your guide that's going to help you when it's time to execute. And they're actually not too hard to build, actually pretty easy to build as far as the core components, the core 5 steps that you would use to build out your trading plan. We'll walk through that here. And once your trading plan is in place, then you're set, right? And then you can follow that framework, and then you can adjust or build on it, but you've got your trading framework set, your trading plan set, and then you just keep improving as you become more experienced and as you want to keep changing, adjusting to keep improving your trading results. So let's show you the 5 steps on how to basically create your own trading plan. Step 1, as far as the steps kind of on this is, first thing you're going to do is you're going to determine if a trend exists, right? That's where your indicators come in. It's obvious that trend following indicators fail if there's no trend, right? I mean, the idea, if you're trying to use an indicator that's going to try to show a trend, and if there's a trend, we can kind of predict what's going to happen going up or down in that trend. And if if there's no trend, then your indicators are not going to be successful, right? So, the key of that whole trend is your friend is so important. So keep that there when you're looking at these indicators. You're looking for these trends as part of a 5-step plan. Number 2, have a rule for opening a position, basically your buying position. What are you going to do? What are the criteria that will be, what are primary, secondary indicators telling you whatever that says, I'm going to open a position when this happens? For example, it might be like, I will buy when the 20-day simple moving average crosses the 200-day simple moving average. And I confirm that with the MACD, moving average convergence and divergence, right? So that's the rule, right? I have to meet these things in order to buy, right? So that's part of my plan. I'm going to look at indicators, I'm going to look at trends, and then number 2, I'm going to buy or open a position. That's the key part. When am I going to open or buy once once these indicators kind of line up, and this is an example of that. Number three, you're going to manage your money at risk by scaling up or down, and how much you scale up or down, or even at all. But that's a great way to build into an overall trading plan. Now it's looking at more managing your money versus, let's say, a trading indicator. And so you'll increase your funds in current winning trades and withdraw from poorer performers, the idea of scaling money up and down based on a trade. So for example, we talked about an example a little earlier too, if you put $500 that you've dedicated for each trade, and then you have $200 or what you're going to put in when number 1 and number 2 are met as far as primary and secondary indicators, and then you'll keep adding to that trade for profitability as numbers 3, 4, and 5 are met. By the same token, once it certainly reaches all 5, or it might not get to all 5, you're going to sell right away once you get a sell indicator, right? That's the idea, is you sell everything right away when there's a sell indicator. But as far as adjusting how much money you have at risk by scaling that up or down, you can kind of take it a little bit easier, or adjust how much you want to put at risk. If you say, okay, if I see my number 1 and number 2, I'm going to put all in, that's fine too. Just understand that you're taking on more trading risk than if you spread that out a little bit too. Neither way is right or wrong, just it's a little bit more conservative and a little bit more risk adverse to spread that trading money by scaling that money up or down. For closing a position, we have, the second one is establishing when to buy. Well, it's also important to know when to sell, right? And that's very important because that's going to help control your losses. You want to control your losses, and you want to lock in profits and control your losses and have increased profitability, of course. Now, active traders are not buy and hold forever type investors, right? They're not going to buy something and then hold it for 5 years or 10 years or forever. They're looking at targets and stops when they want to lock in those profits, and that's when we look about some other things around trading, around targets and stops, and how to set that from an order standpoint. But the idea is that you're looking at a target you're going to want your security to try to get to. It may not get all the way there, but that's the target you're looking at, and once it hits that, you're going to sell to lock in that profit. Another thing is using stops, where it might go up a little bit, but it might start going down. There's a stop, limit or a stop, where it's a trading mechanism to help you automatically, basically sell and protect your downside. So, for example, you might say that as part of your plan, that you're going to sell everything when the price crosses below the 20-day moving average. Once that happens, you're selling. You're not debating. You're not having a whole big discussion about it. It's like, no, this is the rule. This is part of my trading plan. This is my rule for closing a position. And of course, you can have whatever indicator and rules you want. You'll be developing that on your own, of course. But the fourth part of this is establishing a rule for closing a position. And then lastly, number 5 is doing it again, right? Doing it over and over again. It might be with a new security that you're now looking at for the same types of indicator situations, of primary, secondary, whatever it might be. Or sometimes it's a re-entry into the same security as the price waxes and wanes over a period of time. You might have a smaller watch list of securities that you really like to trade in, and you're always watching those, of course, and then you're doing these same 5 steps as far as your trading plan. So, for example, a swing trader may trade several times in and out on a security with a longer overall predominant trend. That's the whole idea, that the price swinging up and down. But they're watching this overall trend, but they're kind of getting in and out more frequently than somebody who might ride that trend almost the whole way and then get out all at once. Either way works, just no matter how frequently you're trading and your trading style, for example. Or, for example, you want to walk up the Bollinger Band, and then once it's off the band, you sell, and then you get back again when that security gets back on a band, walking up. So you're really using that maybe as a primary indicator, something else confirming it. So when it's on the band, you're walking up the band. Look at that lesson again. If this sounds a little unfamiliar, but look at that lesson if you need to. But you're walking up the band, you're going to keep riding it. Once it's off the band, you sell, and it's back on, you're buying again, right? So you're kind of doing that with maybe a smaller universe of securities. Either way, how you do that, you're trying to set up that whole trading plan of doing it again and how many securities you might be looking at. So if you think about it, kind of the steps around there, you have your tools, your indicators, and you have these rules, you have these ideas of how you would use all that. And then the 5 steps is determining if the trend exists. That's your indicator, is going to help you with that. What's your rule for opening a position? That's where your discipline is going to help you with that, and establishing that all ahead of time. Managing your money is an important part, and you can manage that risk by scaling your money, as far as how much you want to put in at a time. Establish a rule certainly for closing the position, so you need to know when to buy. But number 4, you need to know how to sell. and then doing it again and how you want to approach that. And again, that discipline will serve you well. You follow your plan here. As you deviate from any of these 5 points in the plan, then it gets a little bit more less efficient and maybe less less profits for you. So follow these guidelines, and then you can build on this framework as far as creating your own type of plan. And then that's kind of the last thought there is keep that framework, but adapt your rules as you evolve. Because you will evolve as a trader, especially if you're a little bit newer to this and you took the course because you're a little bit newer, maybe you're brand new to this, you will evolve. So for example, as you do more trades, you're going to become more comfortable and you're going to become more confident, which means your risk profile is going to change. You might have started, let's say, trading and be a little bit nervous and all, and that's perfectly okay. Everybody is. But as you do more trades, you see some success, you're going to take on maybe a little bit more risk, possibly, because you're more confident and you're more experienced and you're better at just trading in general. And the amount of time that is available for you to trade could change too. Maybe you've got a full-time job, it's just crazy, it's busy, everything's just crazy, so you just trade a little bit. But maybe now you've reached a point where you have more time freed up and you're more confident, you want to trade a little bit more. Well, then you can adjust your framework for how you might want to be a more active trader than somebody who's a little less active trader. The other one's right or wrong again. It's just that you can adjust your framework as these things happen. Particularly with risk profile, you might be adjusting your framework to be matching up with your risk a little bit more. Again, you take on a little bit more risk. The idea is you're going to get a little more reward as part of that too. So more risk, more reward. And so that's where that confidence and that knowledge as you keep going is going to serve you well. And I hope this course has helped you with that, to give you that confidence and that framework to then build your own success. That's the whole idea here of.
Okay, so this was all related to the trading plan. Okay. Now, at the last, we have only one part remaining for this, that is creating your custom trading plan. So I will be make sure that ये हम start करें and फिर हम इस वाले segment को end कर देंगे, okay? And then we have the managing your trades, but वो हम next session में कल discuss करेंगे. But this going to be the first last part, okay?
Couple of last thoughts around your trading plan and all that. In thinking about technical people who trade, active traders, and using technical analysis, and maybe like traditional long-term investors, like buy and hold type investors. If you think about a technical trader, in their plan has, like we walk through these kind of 5 steps, but the plan has rules from entry to exit, right? When you're going to buy something, you've got rules that help you with that and indicators you're going to use. And when you exit or sell, you've got rules and things that are conditions that need to be met to do that as well. So you have a definite plan around entry and exit. And you'll use things like stop losses and targeting, profit levels and all that. And so you're coupling that loss reduction and avoidance with profit, right? So you're actively trying to manage through that and using that in a real technical way. In a real dispassionate, unemotional way, certainly, and you're looking at what the charts and what the indicators tell you, and then you're reacting accordingly. If we think about a lot of traditional, quote-unquote, traditional investors, many might have no plan, but hopefully they have a plan, or they may have a rule for entry, right? So they might, enter into something based on something. Maybe it's some type of fundamental, whether it's a price to earnings or a value type of ratio or profit to growth, earnings to growth, PEG ratios. There's different types of things you could use as a traditional investor for entry, but there's no specific plan for exit. There's really more of an indefinite period for exit when things start changing around maybe that particular security or in the wider world or wider market around there. So a technical trader is looking at enter and exit, and they have a plan that covers everything. A traditional investor is looking at entry, and then they might even let that ride further. Like a buy and hold investor might let that ride for a very long time, years or more, or maybe forever. And the thing with that is, if executed correctly, either one can be successful. Either one can be successful. And so you want to think about, and you can have a combination. You might have your core part of your portfolio where it's mutual funds and exchange traded funds, for example, that are core, and you buy them and you hold them and you let them go for long periods of time. And then you might have another part of your portfolio where you're using that technical trading to get a better return on top of that buy and hold by having those entry and exit points as a technical analysis trader. And that can take many forms depending on your time frame from day trading to more active trading to swing trading to whatever it might be. So that's kind of the difference between those. And as far as some of those final thoughts. And lastly, as we saw earlier, your trading rules, which is all part of your trading plan, and overall think of this is really going to come around the indicators you use, coupling with the risk profile that you have, how much time you have available for trading, and putting this all together as far as understanding how you're going to execute and look at as far as what's enjoyable for you in terms of your overall trading plan and the plan you're going to follow. So again, keep that in back of the mind, the indicators that you've learned that you want to use, understanding a little bit more about your own risk. Starting slowly is perfectly good. Certainly using things like paper trading, back testing to get you comfortable. Those are good ways to get going. And then as you keep developing, then adapt from there as you become more experienced and more successful. The simplest and most common type of order is a market order. In fact, when most people think of like, well, I bought a security or I sold a security, really what they're talking about is they placed a market order is what they're doing. And market orders indicate that you're willing to take whatever price is presented to you, when the order is executed. You could say, well, that's the market price as an example. Now, it's not a locked-in market price. You might see it on your screen and place the order, but by the time the order is executed, it might be slightly higher or lower than expected. So it won't necessarily be the exact price that you're seeing once, because it all depends on the timing of the order execution. Securities that are frequently traded will execute faster, heavy volume type things, but some things like some securities that don't trade as often and have very low volume, it might take a little while for that order to be processed to match a buyer and a seller. So a market order, very simply, I'm buying or selling at the market price. And then there's another thing called a limit order where you can kind of adjust that. And a limit order basically allows you to limit either the maximum price you will pay or the minimum price you're willing to accept when buying or selling a security. I'll place a limit order and say I want to buy, but I don't want to pay more than this, or if I'm selling, I don't want to sell for less than that, is the idea. And that's the primary difference between a market order and a limit order, is that a limit order may not be executed if the target limit price is never reached. So let's say the market price is at 70 and if you put in a market order, it would be executed. But if you, let's say, said, oh, I don't want to do that, I don't want to pay 70, I'm willing to pay 68, well, then it might not ever be executed. So limit orders are executed in the order in which they are received, as far as from the online broker. So, possibly an order is not executed if a price hits the limit target and then moves below it real quickly before the order is executed. So even if you see it kind of flash like, oh, it should be getting executed, because there might be even more, a little bit more delay there, that might happen as well. So let's look at an example of that, of both of these. So let's say you have the security here and you've done your trend lines, and you can see, oh, look at this nice trend here on the image on the right here, and you say you want to buy on the second touch, or near that trend line. All right, so you see that, let's say it's on a daily time frame, and so you're going to buy on the second day. You've seen the second touch as far as the close. Now you're buying on the second day, and as you can see on that second day, there's the last candlestick in our image here. You can see there's a wide range of prices from high to low. I mean, it tops around 73, and then goes down as far as the range down to about 71. So if you place the market order, depending where you're buying in the day, it could end up at any of those prices. And let's say you're looking at it, it's around 72.75 or 72.80. You place a market order, and it gets executed. It ends up being executed at 72.75. So let's say that's what you're looking at in this particular example. But let's say you're looking at 72.75 and you say, well, I don't want to pay that. I want to put a limit order in. I want to pay less than that. This is a buying situation. So if you put in a limit order for 71.50, let's say, well, that would be executed. You could see, depending on how it all flows during the day, but as you can see, at some point, there's more likely a chance it's going to hit at that 71.50 in that range throughout the day, as it would have turned out. You don't know ahead of time. That's how it would have turned out. But let's say in this day and you're liking this trend, you say, well, I don't want to pay more than 70.50 or 70.50. Well, then you can see it never really got that low as far as in the trading range. So your order never would have been executed. Then you would have to wait till the next day and place a different type of order, or cancel that order and place a different type of, either a market order or raise your limit order up. So that's the thing with market orders. You're going to be able to buy or sell right away. And then with a limit order, you're setting some guidelines around that in terms of buying or selling. And just understand that depending what guidelines you put, your order might not be executed at all. And don't be disappointed in that. That's just all part of the strategy of using limit orders to limit, how high you'll buy and how low you would be willing to sell, to give a little more protection.
WXL, if you want, you can make a deposit of $5. Okay.
हेलो 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 सॉरी एक्चुअली मेरा थोड़ा इशू हुआ था यस ओके सो 440 हो चुके हैं मैंने आपको मार्केट लिमिट ऑर्डर्स भी बता दिए हैं ट्रेड्स बता दिए रीमा आपने कुछ कहा था
नो एक्चुअली क्वेश्चन तो मैंने आंसर किया।
ओके तो यस अभी 441 हो चुके हैं तो लेट्स प्ले सम सॉन्ग्स हमने सॉन्ग्स प्ले नहीं किए आपकी कोई क्वेश्चंस है कोई प्रेडिक्शंस पूछने हैं तो मुझसे पूछ सकते हैं एक सेकेंड या कोई क्वेश्चंस पूछने हैं तो पूछ लीजिए मुझसे लेट्स लुक हैव द कमेंट सेक्शन या ठीक है तो आपको ट्रेडिंग स्ट्रैटेजी समझ में आ गई सारी कोई अगर आपको सिंपलीफाई चाहिए तो बोलिए ओके बाय जेक इस ओके ओके ठीक है क्वेश्चंस तो नहीं है मेरे वाले में जेक को बाय करना है या नहीं बीएस राजपूत सर पूछ रहे हैं ग्रीटिंग्स टू द फैमिली थैंक यू सर थैंक यू गुड मॉर्निंग गुड आफ्टरनून ओके मैं बताती हूँ जेक का क्या करना है एक सेकेंड मैंने आपको सोलाना का बताया ना सोलाना आपको इन्वेस्ट करना ही नहीं है सोलाना में क्योंकि सोलाना जो है वो ऑलरेडी इतना डिक्लाइन हो चुका है कि हम उस पर ना ही ट्राई करें तो अच्छा होगा एंड जेक का हम देखते हैं अभी क्या है सीन जेक ओके जेक जो है वो आई थिंक जेड कैश जेड जेड कैश सर आप बाय कर सकते हैं अच्छा होगा क्योंकि देखिए यू कैन सी ये जो लाइन आप देख सकते हैं ना ये छोटा कैंडल है इसको हम जितना अगर ये ब्रॉड होता है ना जैसे मैंने आपको पहले बताया था ये अभी तक उस पर टच नहीं कर पाए पहले हमने इतना प्रिडिक्ट किया था बट ये अभी ऊपर है तो ये ऊपर जाने वाला है ये मैंने काफ़ी टाइम पहले कहा था बट अभी वी आर गोइंग टू टच द रेजिस्टेंस अमाउंट ये रेजिस्टेंस फ्लोर तो अभी आप देख सकते हैं कि जितना ये नीचे नीचे आपको दिखता है ना ये स्टार, ये सिंगल सिंगल सिंगल, ये जो सिंगल सिंगल है, दैट मीन्स दैट इट इंक्रीज, बट स्टेडीली इंक्रीज हुआ है, थोड़ा सा इंक्रीज हुआ है, ज़्यादा इंक्रीज हुआ नहीं है अभी तक। जब आप ब्रॉड रेड कैंडल देखे तब सोचे कि हाँ ये ब्रॉड ज़्यादा हुआ है, पर जब आप ऐसा देखे तो हमेशा सोचिए कि सिंगल सिंगल कैंडल्स है, ये ब्रॉड अभी हुआ है। ये देखिए, तो अभी का क्या है इसका पॉइंट, सिंगल कैंडल है, 475 सिंगल कैंडल है, राइट। सिंगल कैंडल है तो ये क्या करेगी, अभी आपको इसको बाय करना चाहिए, ऑफ कोर्स बाय करना चाहिए, क्योंकि रेड तो मुझे कहीं दिख नहीं रहा है। अगर मैं इसको इस हिसाब से देखूं तो भी आप यही देख सकते हैं कि सिंगल ही चल रहा है। हम्म, ओके, या थोड़ा ऊपर नीचे फ्लक्चुएशन है, बट बहुत स्टेडी है। तो आई थिंक इट्स गुड इफ यू बाय दिस, क्योंकि अभी देख सकते हैं कैसे चेंज हो रहा है। या यू कैन बाय दिस, रेजिस्टेंस आप फ्लोर लगाइए, 520 पे जा सकता है या 519 पे भी, तब आप सेल कर देना, ओके। ठीक है, तो दिस गोइंग टू बी द प्राइस प्रिडिक्शन फॉर दिस। ठीक है, जेक जेक आप बाय कर लीजिए, बी एस राजपूत सर, जेक जो है बाय कर लीजिए। तो जेड कैश के बारे में मैं बोल रही थी कि आप जो है वो बाय कर लीजिए, एंड वन सेकेंड, या सो जेड कैश जो है वो आप बाय कर लीजिए, एंड बाय करने के बाद रेजिस्टेंस फ्लोर जो है वो इस पे लगा देना, ठीक है। ओके, एनी क्वेश्चंस। गेम गेम खेलते हैं फिर, लास्ट 15 मिनट्स बचे, थोड़ा एंटरटेनमेंट मिलेगा आपको। कौन सा खेलना चाहेंगे? एनी क्वेश्चन सर, एनी क्वेश्चन गाइस? आई होप आपको मैंने आज बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट इन्फॉर्मेशन दी है। ये इन्फॉर्मेशन मोस्टली एक टॉप अमेरिकन एक्सपर्ट की थी। ही इज़ एक्चुअली टेलिंग यू दी स्ट्रैटेजी, गोरिल्ला स्ट्रैटेजी, ये वाली स्ट्रैटेजी जो आपको कहीं नहीं बताई जाती। ना तक कि कोई भी ट्रेडिंग सेशन में आपको ये सारे टाइप की स्ट्रैटेजी बताई जाएगी। सो इट्स एक्चुअली अ माइंड ब्लोइंग थिंग फॉर यू कि आपको ये सारी चीज़ें देखने को मिली। ओके, ठीक है, अभी मैं जो है वो आपके लिए गेम खेलती हूँ। हम बहुत टाइम से इस पे आए ही नहीं है ना। डाई हार्ड एक गेम है, ये कौन सा गेम है? इट्स सो अमेजिंग, ये वाली साइट पे प्लीज जाइए गाइस, crazygames.com। ठीक है, ऑल आउट पता नहीं क्या है, न्यू गेम्स है सारे। चलो ऑल आउट देखते क्या है। क्यों नहीं हो रहा है? अच्छा ये सब ऐसा है, ओके। ठीक है, मैं बैक जाती हूँ, होम पे कुछ न्यू देखते हैं। डाई हार्ड देखते, डाई हार्ड क्या है। ठीक है, ओके, सो वी विल ट्राई दिस। ये मेरे लिए भी फर्स्ट टाइम ही है, तो मैं देखती हूँ कैसे कर सकते हैं हम। क्या करना है इसमें? क्या करना क्या है? ओके। आगे नहीं जाता ये। पता नहीं कैसा है ना ये। अब कितना करना है ये? क्या है ये? अरे यार। अच्छा, आगे और भी है। ओके। अरे अरे अरे। वाओ। अब आया ना गेम। क्या करना है इसमें? इसमें स्पेस ही नहीं है। यूज स्पेस टू स्विम अंडर द पाइप। हाउ विल आई स्विम? मेरे पास तो स्विम का ऑप्शन ही नहीं है। नहीं हो रहा है। अरे बैक नहीं हो रहा है। सॉरी गाइस। नहीं हो रहा है ये। It was good. So it was good game. पॉलीट्रैक खेल लेते लास्ट। पॉलीट्रैक इज ऑलमोस्ट मेरा सबसे फेवरेट गेम है। अब मैं प्रो हो गई हूँ शायद ड्राइविंग में। One. Yes. Next. Oh. ये वाला करते हैं। किसके साथ खेलना चाहेंगे? आई थिंक इनके साथ। Polytrack is so hard to play. Yes, we have landed. We have landed, guys. Have you seen that? 10 सेकंड आगे है. Where to go? Oh no, the difference has. Hmm, 50% से आगे निकल गया वो. फिर से ट्राई करते हैं तो हराने का. फिर से ट्राई करते हैं. मैं इसको हराऊंगी. You actually go very fast, right? Oh no, हार गई फिर से. जान दो, जीत के फायदा नहीं है. जीतना मुझे था पर वो फर्स्ट आ गया. ठीक है. एनीवेज, तो 3 मिनट बचे गाइस हमारे सेशन को ओवर होने के लिए. मैं फिर से आपके लिए एक बार खेलती हूँ. क्या सीखी मैंने? तो जाके भी नहीं हो सकता है. कुछ भी है ये ट्रैक. Yes, this is called real polytrack, where you can see the stunts. We're using the car and no one can do that. That's why मुझे जीतने से ज़्यादा अच्छा आपको दिखाने में. So nice. ठीक है. Okay guys, so I think it's about 2 minutes to end. तो मैं आपसे कहना चाहूँगी thank you so much everyone who have joined the session. This is going to be the second last जो था वो था, and कल अभी हमारा जो है वो last session होगा मेरा शुभी's लाइफ का. So I actually wanted to tell you कि आप प्लीज़ कल आइए and ये लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग को अटेंड करें. कल मैं आपको टाइमिंग्स अपडेट करती हूँ. I have to plan a little bit. मेरी मैम को टाइमिंग अपडेट कर दूँगी एंड उसके बाद फिर हम कल लास्ट सेशन रखेंगे. ओके. सो थैंक यू सो मच फॉर ऑल ऑफ योर डिपॉज़िट. मैंने देखा आज काफ़ी लोगों ने डिपॉज़िट किया, नॉलेज लिया, बात की. दैट्स अमेजिंग ऑफ यू. मैं चाहती हूँ आप ऐसे ही करते रहे. हर एक लाइव स्ट्रीमिंग में आप सीखते रहे, आप डिपॉज़िट करें और आप बहुत सारे ट्रेड्स लें और प्रॉफ़िट करें. थैंक यू गाइज़ फॉर एवरीथिंग. थैंक यू एनजी सर, थैंक यू बीएस राजपूत सर. रीमा, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगी?
Thank you so much, Shubhi. Thank you for
थैंक
a lovely, session. We all are miss you,
थैंक यू.
actually. ये second last है, but still,
Tomorrow we have
um,
one more to go.
and yeah, one more to go. So
Yes.
yes, we all are excited.
Yes.
Thank you so much for all the information. Thank you, and thank you
Thank
so
you.
much all of you guys. आपने इतना कॉपरेट किया उसके लिए थैंक यू सो मच. सो कल का
Before-
टाइमिंग आप मुझे एक बार कंफर्म कर
Yes,
दीजिएगा,
sure.
ठीक है?
Yeah.
1 to 4 आपने आई थिंक मेंशन किया था, तो वो मैंने
Yes.
कर दिया, बट इफ यू वांट टू चेंज देन लेट मी नो.
I will let you know. Yes.
ओके डन. सो थैंक यू सो मच
Thank
गाइस.
you
थैंक यू.
guys. Bye bye.
बाय.
Take care. Happy weekend. Happy weekend, ma'am. Thank you.
हैप्पी वीकेंड. बाय.